Good morning, everyone. This is Gary Thompson. Just want to say welcome to our first training session and thank you for attending. I'm standing in for Bob Holcomb on this morning. Bob is at another meeting, but we just want to say to you, thank you for attending. And we want to offer our thanks also for those participants that participated in the users training and gave us good feedback on this platform. We really appreciate it. We've been talking about this new platform coming online for probably about 2 years now, and it's finally here. We know that anytime change comes, we have some apprehension, but we want you to embrace this process today, this training, and once you see the tool and the tool in action, I think, and you begin to feel comfortable with it, I think you'll be pleased with what has been done. I think it offers a little more options than we had previously in the INL tool. But don't be anxious. Don't be afraid. It's just like anything else. When something is new, when you get used to it, you see how simple it is to use and to maneuver within the platform. So with that, I want to say thank you again and welcome. Please have any questions, or we don't want you to leave with any apprehensions or any unanswered questions or anything. So if you have questions, please ask your questions today. If you see a way or a means that you think the tool can be improved, we welcome those comments also. But embrace this session on this morning and just look at it as an opportunity to learn something new. And at that, we would say thank you again for being present.
Thank you, Gary. And welcome, everybody. This is Jarl Jonas again. So personally, I want to welcome those who've joined us in the room and those who've joined us online. Just want to point out a few logistical items here about the training before we begin. And also be joined by my colleague Pranav shortly online as well to help address any questions, in addition to Gary and Pat and Darlene, as well as Christine. So thanks, we have lots of expertise and brain trust in the room to make sure you're fully supported and all your questions can be answered, and surely enough time to get through today's material. And when you do have questions, for those of us online, please feel free to use the Q&A pod at the top right-hand side of your screen. And if you have any general comments about the session itself, such as volume or connections, please use the chat box to do that, and we can monitor those as we move forward. We will be recording today's session and distributing this as well after we're able to produce and get the script aligned with the video for accessibility. And that usually takes about 2 weeks' time in order to produce, so we'll be distributing that to everybody. And you'll see shortly when we get into the system where a link will be located for you to access that as well. And I'll review the materials that you've been sent or have in front of you shortly. But just as a reminder, we are muting everyone's line. We will open up the line throughout the session as we take questions. If you are online, please enter your questions in the Q&A pod, and we'll address them either when we break or immediately there as well. And then lastly, of course, for those in the room, if you have questions, please feel free to get my attention, and we'll help address those as well. And today is going to be both a presentation as well as a demonstration of the system, so not a hands-on training. We're going to see how these introductory sessions go and then assess what kind of training sessions, hands-on sessions may be needed subsequently. But in that case, when you do see me log into the system, I want you to note that it is a training environment, and it is what we call a sandbox. So it has sample data. It may not actually be as real as you might look or may see in the real system. And I'll be logging in as an oversight user, which means I'll have access probably to a lot more areas than you may have as an individual user based on the type of information that you typically work with or the agency or bureau that you're associated with. I'll point that out again as we get into the system, but just as a reminder, wanted to let you know that before we begin. So let's go ahead and commence and take a look at our roadmap for today's session. Our agenda here is we're going to first talk a little bit about, I think, our purpose. We all know why we're here, but also review some of the materials that we have, again, in front of us, and those of us online that you've been sent and hopefully have with you. We'll then take a look at an application overview. So taking a brief look at the program history, Gary was able to give us kind of a brief synopsis of how we've gotten here. But we'll just have some reminders about the program history and then the new type of system in terms of what it's running on, as well as looking at then the user roles that we will have assigned to our accounts in the platform, and some reminders about the key business rules that are driving our use of the system. All right, and then I've wanted to put together sort of a visual process diagram that will look in terms of each of the types of reporting, and then that'll help set us up then to move into the demonstration portion. We'll talk about how we access the new platform, and I didn't remind myself to go ahead and announce once again, but just to step back, the system will become available on Monday, August 2nd, in case, Monday, October 2nd. So when we do reveal the new web address, just note that if you try to access the system, you will not be able to access that until, and you will be provided with new user accounts. So previous user accounts will not work on the new platform. All right, and I'll review the demonstration agenda as we move forward a little bit further, but then we want to make sure we close, making sure that you have access to and know how to contact support once the training has closed and have any questions or issues as you begin to use the platform. And then again, question and answers, please feel free to go ahead and ask questions throughout, but we'll leave plenty of time at the end as well for questions and answers. I want to pause here and just see if anybody has any additional items that they thought might be a part of the agenda. If so, please put them in the chat or let me know if you're not sure if something might be covered with one of the topics. And then we can see if we can adjust as necessary. Okay, so Charity, you mentioned, is this just for GSA property or is this for all BLM personal property? Not familiar with BLM myself, but Gary, is that, you want to address that question?
This is for all property that's being reported at the end of the year. Remember, each agency is required by law to report non-federal recipient property and by regulation to report exchange sale property. So this tool will accept all your non-federal recipient data and your exchange sale data on property that, so this is all government property.
Thank you, Gary. And Charity, let us know if that helped address your question. Great. Okay. Okay, so again, we're all here to take a look at the new system and get acquainted, and I wanted to go ahead and again briefly review the materials. So those of us in the room, I've given you a copy of the training presentation that was on top of then the user guide, which I have pictured here on the screen. The presentation I'll be going through first, so you're welcome to follow along, take any notes there, and for those online as well, if you have those electronically or physically printed in front of you, that would be great. And then also the user guide. So we'll go, and as I get into the demonstration portion particularly, I'll begin to point you to the user guide so you can follow along and kind of see how we've developed the materials to support you as a step-by-step approach for each of the tasks and processes that I'll be reviewing today. In case you do not have a copy for some reason, please let us know in the chat for those online, and we can see if we can get you a copy. All right, so let's move then forward into the application overview. And I think as the question that just came up and then Gary explained, our use of the platform is driven here by a couple of mandates. So I'm not going to read this slide, but just so you know that we do have this repeated in the user guide, but just take a reminder that our use of the personal property tool, including the need to report the federal asset sales, is driven by the mandates that we see here. And if you look on pages 4 and 5 in particular of the user guide, you'll see some of this information as well as a reminder in case you're interested. And then I'll point out in the system where you can link to the GSA website, which gives a bit more background. And just a note to some of my co-facilitators here that there's a couple people who did mention in the chat that they didn't receive a copy yet by email. To be able to get them a copy, that would be great. Okay, and then the new platform that we're looking at is a cloud-based platform. So that's just and it's run by a platform known as Salesforce. I know that some individuals might have experience with Salesforce in other capacities, and it's basically, a trusted government system that's been, if anybody's familiar with FedRAMP, it's just a certification that the federal government requires from a security standpoint for all systems in use to be able to comply with. So it is a chosen tool, that other agencies or other parts of the government are in use. So as we get into the system, I'll point out how to navigate the system, but just wanted to give you a sense of, the tool that is underneath the hood per se. All right, so before we get into the system, I want to go ahead and review some of the user roles. And these user roles represent basically permission sets that will be assigned to each of your accounts. As you can see here, it's a little bit of an eye chart, but we wanted to make sure everyone was represented. Each for the personal property, exchange and sales data, as well as the non-federal recipient data and the federal asset sales. Okay, I'll be using the acronyms then from now on to help describe those: ESD, NFRD, and eFAS. Okay, so as you can see, for each of those types of reports, data entry user role, a data approver user role, and a read-only user role. Okay, so basically pretty self-evident in terms of what they're able to do, but I'll describe as, again, we get into the system. Data entry user roles means those individuals, depending on the reporting type, can enter information, either individual records or in bulk, using a template that I'll review, as well as for those of us at the level 1 agency level, which I'll briefly describe, you'll also be able to, as a data submit for approval. Okay, and then for the data approver roles, those are going to be for each of the reporting types, the individuals who would approve the data that's being submitted for approval, and then the individuals at the level 1 to be able to submit the information to GSA for those that require. Sure, got a question here in the room.
Will there be more than one person assigned that task, and will there be system indication?
So let me just repeat the question, make sure I got, so for the data entry role, is there more than one person? Right, and typically I would say that could be the case. As you'll see as we talk about the agency hierarchy, Gary and some of the other application owners might know better in terms of the actual people who have been involved, but it can be possible that there's more than one data entry. And it is also possible that you could play a data entry and approver role. You can approve your own data in the system, and I'll show you how we as well. So, question. Okay, and then there's a read-only user. From what I understand, this is a newer type of role. And at the moment, I'm not sure if anybody is designated as this type of user in the system, but it is an available permission set that in case somebody just needs to review information but not input information or approve, that is available to us. Okay, and then as we see on the bottom, both the eFAS and PPRT have oversight users. These are your application owners, and they have access to see all information in the system related to their particular area, as well as perform all of the duties of the other roles or all the permissions and capabilities of the data entry and approver role. Okay, so this is also repeated in the user guide on page 10. Making sure I flip through and keep myself honest. And then as we talk through the different areas of the system, there on page 11, it just shows you the different areas of the system. And as we get in there, I'll describe the tabs, just a reminder of which role has access to which area. So I'll be logging in, as I mentioned earlier, as an oversight user. So again, I can perform the multiple roles and go throughout the entire process to show you for each of the reporting types. But if you're only a data entry user for PPRT ESD, for instance, then you would have access to those functions only. Okay, as well as now when we talk about agency hierarchy, depending on who we're associated with or which agencies we're performing these duties for, we have a hierarchy here in the system at these levels. So looking at level 1 being a top agency level, for instance, Department of Energy, as we see here, and then a level 2 below that, a sub-agency level would be an example, the Golden Field Office, and then at the level 3, the Bureau Office level, at the example, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Okay, let me reduce the chat window here so those of us in the room can see the screen better. So again, here at each of the levels, it could be that the approval process might follow the hierarchy here, but it is important to note that each of these levels will report, typically in the system, and can report their own information. So they operate independently, kind of as lanes or rows as we see, as well as operate as a hierarchy. And from a data access standpoint, I, as a user in level 3, can only see data related to my level and not above. But if I'm level 1, I can see all information that flows down. Okay. So just want to quickly check and see if there's any questions about user roles or the agency hierarchy that we need to address or review. Christine, at all? Anything for the benefit of the group? Okay, but if you have questions, go ahead and feel free to enter them, and we'll get them addressed, and we can pause to review if we feel something is of benefit to review for the whole group. All right, and again, depending on then the type of reports that we're working with, I just wanted to remind us about some key business rules. So each of the reporting types, the exchange and sales data, non-recipient, and the eFAS. Okay, I'm going to leave off the government sales as something for Darlene in particular, so I just left it on here as a reminder for you. But here we see the reporting periods that will begin, each of them for us, particularly for PPRT on October 1st. These are reports that are done on an annual basis, okay? And it's important to note that once the reporting period, the time period by which we have to enter, approve, and submit the information to GSA, it'll close on December 30th. I'll review this in a diagram again so we have a little reminder, but you know, the reporting period would end, but then you have 90 days to go ahead and submit that information. So for us, working with PPRT, ESD, and NFRD until December 30th in order to enter that information into the system. As we noted before, the system would become available October 2nd and accounts will be provisioned. So just a little side note there, but just officially the reporting period begins on October 1st, which is a Sunday. All right, and then for eFAS, this is done on a quarterly basis, and there is one report per quarter. And so in a similar fashion, you'll see in the system as we get in there, there's a way to choose, you know, which fiscal quarter that you'll be reporting against. But for an example, as we see, the upcoming fiscal year quarter would begin October 1st and then closes on January 30th. Okay, so those individuals have up until that date to enter that information. Okay, any questions on this, let me know. I think, let me point you back to, stepping back a bit in the guide on page 6, reminder of these dates for each of the areas as well. Just checking the chat window here.
Emailing out
Okay, so yes, those of us who indicated that need a copy, Christine has put her email in there, so if you can please email Christine and we'll get you a copy of the user guide, and David, we see your question, when will the GSA data be put into the system so federal agencies do not duplicate data in their submission? Also, how do we change data if we see bad GSA data?
Dave, this is Gary. This is something that we spoke of on yesterday. It's our objective for GSA to be aggressive this year to get your data in. We requested your data from FAST already. We're expecting to have it by the end of October. That's our expectation. And from our point in OGP, we're trying to have that data in by no later than November 30. And that gives you 30 days for agency data to go in. And hopefully the GSA data that we provided for you, you'll be able to see and to reconcile the GSA data with your data to make sure there is no duplication or if the data is correct. How we reconcile data, the reconciliation process will be different in this system. Any reconciliations or bad data that has to be changed, if that's done within the time frame, we can withdraw and upload a new record. But if it's done beyond the time frame when the window is closed, it has to be done through our help desk support. But that will be explained later on into the presentation.
Okay, so that's basically what all these errors are. These errors are going to highlight what doesn't make sense.
If that's someone asking a question on the phone, can you be clear? It didn't come through too clear, or were you explaining that to others next to you? Okay, hopefully that answered, David, your question. Charity asked, where is GSA getting this information? And just as a reminder for those who have just joined, if you can put yourselves on mute, recording the session, that would be great.
Where is GSA getting the information? It's what we tell agencies when they're reporting data, that anything they report through GSA Access, they do not need to report to us. If you do anything outside of GSA Access, that has to be reported by the agency. Outside of the GSA Access, you look at things like Stevenson and Wilder. If your computers and learning program is done outside of GSA Access, you report your computers for learning information. Anything that is done outside of GSA Access, you report. We pull from GSA all the data that relates to your agency's donation to surplus property, your exchange sale data, just the sales portion. The exchange portion has to be reported by you, and anything else that goes through the process, we pull, or you have to report to us. But basically, is anything action that's gone through GSA Access, we pull on your behalf.
Thanks, Gary. And also, as a reminder too, so as you might have seen in communications, information that was in the former system, the legacy platform, is being migrated over. And Christine, am I right that all years that were in the previous system will be migrated over to the new platform? So historical information will be there for viewing and reporting, and we'll talk about the reporting piece shortly. But you can't edit previous fiscal year or quarterly data. Okay. All right, so again, just taking a look then at the user roles and the time period that I just mentioned, kind of in a holistic process view. This will set us up then again for the steps I'll be following in the system. And as Gary mentioned earlier, it's a new platform, but we've really tried to keep the business process the same. As you'll see, I typically equate learning a new platform like getting a new car. And it takes a little while to know where the windshield wiper button is, or maybe how to turn on the AC or radio. But the underlying process of driving, we typically know. So hopefully, the process we've tried to keep the same in terms of submitting the information, approving it, but just kind of now getting your fingers used to where to click is going to be more so what's needed. All right, so then looking then at the first reporting type here, exchange and sales data, is looking at the left-hand side to the right, again, a reminder about the time period at which we have to enter the information. Again, side note, October 2nd will be when the platform is available and accounts will be provisioned. But if we look at the data entry user, okay, they're going to be entering the exchange and sales data in the system. For this type of information, we have both the ability to input individual records as well as bulk records. So we'll review that process as well. And then in the system, I've just noted 2 sub-steps here. We're going to need, in order to submit our information for approval, set our organization status to complete, and then go ahead and submit our information for approval. And then we'll submit that to a particular individual. So it's my understanding that you know who that individual is, but if not, we'll work with the application owners to make that information available. Then as we look at step 2, again, it could be the same person, but sometimes different. Okay, we look at then the data approvers. We're going to come to the approval area to take a look at what's been submitted. And we have the ability to go ahead and approve, reject, or reassign records. And you'll see in the system too that we have the ability to approve in bulk. The records will be grouped up into what we call in the system a reporting period. We can go and access each individual record to take a look at what's been submitted. But when it comes time then to approve, we can approve in bulk as well. All right, and then again, those of us at the level 1, from the data approver perspective, there's the need to go ahead and then submit or basically indicate to the application owners that your information is complete. So I'll give you some indicators on how you can do that, as well as how you update your agency status in the platform. Okay, this is something that's not in the user guide. It's a late addition here to the presentation, but just wanted to provide a little bit of a visual overview. So it's in the presentation only, but if we can subsequently add it to an update to the user guide, then we will. Okay, but just go ahead, taking a look then at the next type, the non-federal recipient data, pretty much exactly the same as exchange and sales data with the types of users and the time period, just different type of data. So as we get into the system, you'll see that the fields, in terms of the information that we need to input, is different. But in terms of the process of the entering the information, then we have the bulk upload available to us as well. The approvals, the same, as well as submitting the agency data to GSA to indicate that the process and all the information is complete. Okay, and then lastly, with eFAS, similar steps, but again, different time periods. Pardon my typo here. It should be quarterly, not semi-annual, but this is just representative of one of the 4 time periods on the in the process that we will be submitting information. And again, we submit 1 record per period. In this case, we go ahead and enter the information and then have it approved. For eFAS, since there was not a requirement to do this in the previous system, we kept it the same. There's no requirement to basically, as with PPRT, to indicate to GSA, the extra 3rd step to go ahead and submit to GSA. But there is system indications that the application owners can take a look and see that information is complete. And one thing to note, and just as a reminder for those who are joining us online, if you could put yourselves on mute to avoid any background noise since we are recording, that would be helpful. I put a lock icon here in terms of when the period closes, because as Gary mentioned, the system will lock then the reporting period and no information can be entered. And once it also is submitted and approved, the information also cannot be edited. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we're in the system again, but just to note, if there, for some reason, in extenuating circumstances, you exceed the deadline, we'll need to work with the help desk in order to update information or add new information if we go beyond these deadlines of December 30th for PPRT and then January 30th and other deadlines for eFAS. Okay. So let me quickly look and see no through in the chat. So we'll keep moving forward. So enough about process. Let's go ahead and start talking about how we get in and where we go ahead and access the new platform. Again, just a reminder that on October 2nd is when the system becomes available and everyone will have been provisioned a user account. Okay, you'll get more information on that through a separate communication. Okay, and as you're following along in the user guide as well as the presentation, just to point out how this information is looking there, you can look on page 13 in the user guide and we'll review some of the steps that I review here on the presentation. But you want to note that the new web address for the reporting platform is listed here, www.property.reporting.gov. And here we have a screenshot of the new login page. Just to review this briefly, we have the information here, just kind of the purpose of the system itself here on the top left. On the bottom left here, the contact information, so that's where you'll get the support information as a reminder. We'll review that as well before we close. And then resource links that'll just be helpful links for you related to your use of the system. And then here on the right, we have the login. Let me take a closer look into the login. As you can see, we have 3 different methods in order to access the platform. I'm going to skip just to number 2 for the moment. As you first enter the system, again, each of you will be provided with a username via email, and then you'll set up your own password for that process. Once you access the system for the first time with the PPRT username and password, you can then utilize, if you have, OMB Max credentials, as well as if you're a GSA staff member, you can use the GSA single sign-on credentials. Okay, and I'll step back briefly just to show you, again, the Max login will be here on the top, your PPRT username and password in the middle, and then your GSA single sign-on here on the bottom. So once you enter in first with the PPRT for the very first time, that username, you can then utilize one of the other credentials. And I saw a question that just came through. Typically, the usernames will be your email accounts. So yes, that typically is what's used as the username. Okay. There is information in the user guide. On page 13 is a link on the electronic format. I've provided it here as well in case you're interested and don't have OMB Max credentials in terms of setting up those for yourself. It's just an easy way to access the platform, sort of a centralized account that you can use. If you do use the PPRT username and password, you will encounter what we call a 2-factor authentication process. That means that you have to enter first your username and password, as we see here, and then you'll be sent a verification code to your email address that's associated with your account, and then you'll go ahead and enter that code in the screen. And then you'll be able to then access the platform and you'll land on what we call the PPRT Home Tab. Okay. So I see a, oh, go ahead.
In terms of, for example, is it some type of log out if you do it too many times, how would that work? In other words, you go in, you forget and you get logged out of the system, I guess.
That's a good question. My colleague Pranav, who is our business analyst, I don't see him online yet, but do you guys know that by chance? Did we set up a lockout for the number of attempts in terms of the system? I don't know that offhand. Okay, so park and lock that and we'll get back to you. The question was, will we be locked out if there's a number of attempts to log in? So we'll definitely come back to that question when my colleague Pranav joins us. And Mike, I see your question. I have 2 IDs for the old INL tool. Who do I talk to ensure the correct email address is used in the new system? I know that we are in the process of making sure that we have those users all set up. Take that as a note for the application owners to go ahead and address. So thanks for that note, Mike. Any other questions on accessing the new platform? Sure, yeah, and it's just for those who might have it, or It's sort of like a single sign-on. It's a credentialing authentication method that you can sign up for through the website listed in the step-by-step guide, and then use those credentials to log into the system. So it's a centralized authentication from the federal government. And it allows you to access multiple platforms with the same username and password to try to make it a little easier, not to have to remember so many different ones. But you know, we're not training on it today, just given our time. But if you have further questions, just let us know if the user guide that we have there is not helpful. Okay. Any other questions about where we go or how to get in? Okay, so I'm going to stop the presentation portion here and begin the demonstration portion. Before I do, let me just show you our roadmap in terms of what we'll be reviewing. All right, so I'm first going to talk a little bit about how we navigate the system as a Salesforce user, just give you some tips and tricks to myself in terms of getting around, try to orient you to the new platform, kind of as you would if I had you, access a new building, just kind of show you around. And then we'll talk about how to enter single data records for PPRT, and then look at the bulk upload process for those ESD and NFRD reports. And then we'll take a look at entering the single eFAS data records, because those are reported once per quarter. There's no bulk upload provided for that. Then we'll put the approver hat on and look at approval, since that's going to be a similar process then for all three types of reports. And then for level 1 users, I want to make sure you're familiar with, particularly for PPRT, how to update your agency status, as we looked at in our process diagram. And then we'll review reports. There are some reports that were brought over from the legacy platform that you will have access to. The reporting area of Salesforce is quite robust, so just given our time here today, limited time, I'm going to show you how to locate the reports, as well as how to review and then download for offline access and printing. We'll most likely have subsequent sessions on the reporting tool, since it is quite robust in terms of how to customize or perhaps create new reports on the platform that would be useful to you as you begin to get deeper into that. But we really want to focus on data entry and approval, since that's our first requirement coming up soon, and then have reporting subsequently. And then in this system, there is a collaboration tool that we call Chatter. So that is, if you've used Facebook, similar type of collaboration tool, but restricted to this particular platform and to the users here in the system, not open to the world like Facebook, but has a similar type of feel in terms of putting in information and kind of tagging users and be able to communicate as you go through the different processes. So we'll review that before we close. All right, so let me switch over here and first show you, this is, again, a development environment. I showed you the screenshot, but just wanted to show you sort of how when I access this, I'm using Google Chrome. Looks, and you can see pretty much like we saw in the screenshot, and the areas that we can log in. Again, when you do get the initial email from the system, it'll give you your username and a link to follow, and then you'll be brought through subsequent screens. So you might not see this when you first get into the system, but with that URL we provided, go ahead and bookmark that, and you'll see this when you come to the platform subsequently. All right, I'm already logged in, so just to kind of save some time, as you'll see, I'm logged in here as an oversight user. A little orientation again to the new environment. I'll start here on the left. At the top navigation items that I'm scrolling over now, we call the tabs. And then typically refer to these areas on the left as the sidebar. Okay, there's one navigational element here. As you can see, the approval. Those of us with approver user roles that I reviewed earlier would have access to that. Same, just two different access points to the approvals area. Okay. But in case you're not familiar, you want to double check when you do access the system, your user access. This is where it's going to list the user roles that are associated with your account. So you can see I have the oversight user. If you're data entry, that'll be listed. If you're data entry and approval, both will be listed. And again, for the particular reporting type as well. Okay, I'm just logged in again as an oversight user so I can have access to everything to show you since we have people operating in different functions. I'm going to first review these areas quickly. As you can see, again, we call them tabs. They kind of have this tab-like structure like you would look at a folder here when we click on them. So our home is where we're going to land. I would suggest that you do try to avoid using your back button in the browser, but if you ever feel lost, just come up to the PPRT Home Tab, and you'll always come back to the Home Tab. Sorry, I've been in the system too long. I didn't re-log in, so give me one moment to log in again. Just gonna change my view so I can see what you're seeing. All right, so you again just use the Home tab in order to come back and start in terms of navigating. So we'll review each of these tabs. Again, Chatter I mentioned is going to be your collaboration tool. This will be what we review in a little bit, but just to give you a brief glimpse of that at the moment. Those of us with approvals will come to the Approval tab. As you see, I have something set up for today, but this will be a list that all the items that have been submitted to you as an approval user. All right, and then those of us with data entry for PPRT would have access to the bulk upload tab. This is something, again, I'll review shortly. And then to enter individual data records and to have a look at all of the information related to our agencies, you'll have access to the data entry tab. So I'll return here shortly and give you this overview, and then lastly, the reports. Okay. So just to come back to the Home tab again, user access is going to tell you user role. Approvals will be an additional entry point to that approvals area. Contact us, as you can see, are the help desk emails that you'll utilize in case you encounter issues. Just let me note here as well, I'll review this when we look at the support information, but in terms of provisioning new users, in case that is a requirement that comes up, you would also now contact the help desk. If there is a newer user that you need to have access to the platform, that'll go through an approval process with the application owners. So they'll verify that with you, and then go ahead and the help desk will then provision the new users. Any upcoming events or milestones, so for instance, once we launch the platform, the subsequent training sessions or other types of events and meetings could be published here. This is something that the application owners would contact support. And as well, this is where I mentioned earlier, the area that will link the video and the recording of today's session, as well as future sessions, and a link to the user guide that you have access or will have access to shortly. And then the PPRT document library, just any documents that the application owners feel would be helpful for you in terms of your use of the platform. Okay, like you see, for instance, the example is the regulation guide. And as reminders, as we saw in the user guide in the presentation, just some of the mandates that are requiring us to enter the information as reminders here on the home page. So lastly, I just wanted to point out our search up here on the right. This is something I'll come back to, but this is a global search in the platform, not the web in general, but something on the platform. As you get used to, and I introduce you to some of these new elements, something that will be created in the system are these numbers here that we see as reporting period IDs. Okay, but just wanted to show you as you start to type in the information, it remembers where you've been in the system to help you get around. And each of you working within a particular level of your agency will each have your own unique reporting period to which you'll be entering information. So you'll start to see that, and that's another way that you can navigate quickly to that area. So just dropping a reminder here, a seed in your mind, as we'll review that shortly as we get into the data entry area. Okay, otherwise you can type in anything here. When we look at the user guide. Let me quickly look on pages 16 and 17. Much more in-depth information that you can review. It does have a lot of search functions. If you're looking for different types of information, such as a wildcard search, you can use the asterisk, and it just brings you through in terms of what the search results look like. But I want to come back to this so I can give you a glimpse into the most important areas and then give you some tips about how to use this to best navigate through. Okay, so I don't see any questions coming through, so we'll keep moving forward. What I want to first start with is, again, putting on our data entry hat. I'm going to come to the data entry tab.
Well, before you said there's one question I think we didn't answer.
Thanks, Gary.
It's from Charity. This need to report all uncontrolled items.
Hi, Charity. We're going to go ahead and address your question at the moment. Is this new tool to report all uncontrolled items that are not in FBMS?
Charity, I'm not familiar with FBMS. Is that a system that's strictly for
It's for BLM, yeah.
BLM?
Yeah, that's what we use, yeah.
BLM, so that would be an internal question that you all have to address. This system is for everything that's going outside of the government, or everything that's been done through exchange sales. So anything that's within your internal system, uncontrolled property, so that will be addressed by you guys through your policy.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary. And Charity, let us know if that helped address your questions. And Mike, yes, I replied to you in the chat, but we are logged in. This is a training sandbox. Pardon me. So again, the information that you see here is all sample data, and the hierarchy that I'll have to point out as I review this page in particular may not be, exactly as you would see it within the actual system. So as we have a variety of different tests that we do and try to break the system here in the sandbox, but we try to represent today as best as possible. All right, so let me scroll down, but as I do that, again, I'm here in as an oversight user, so I have access to a lot more functions than you may. So here you can see under applications, I have 4 radio boxes for each of the application types or reporting types. For those who might be working with one particular type, you'll see 1, or if you entered 2 types of information, you'll see 2 or more. Okay, so what you want to first do is make sure that you confirm that you're on the correct application before you begin entering your data if you have access to more than one area. All right, and just as a reminder, if those are following along in the user guide, we're now on page 19. And I'm going to start and remain on the exchange and sales data. Okay, and you'll see as I go over to some of the other applications, pretty similar, particularly with PPRT, some slight differences with eFAS as we reviewed on the process diagrams. All right, next then you're going to have your fiscal year. Typically by default we'll be on the current fiscal year. Okay, so come when you access the system, you'll typically see the current fiscal year. Again, for eFAS, we'll have a different drop down for quarterly reporting periods. So again, you want to confirm based on what you're trying to do in the system that you're on the correct fiscal year. We can only enter data for the current one, but we can review information for previous ones. All right. As I scroll down, so again, I have access to almost all agencies. I don't want to make it too dizzy, but I won't scroll down too far. And as I reviewed the agency hierarchy earlier on the screen, you can start to see how it plays out here in the system. So for instance, we've looked at Department of Energy. As I expand this area, if I'm a level 1 perhaps in Department of Energy, I can then see the sub-agencies, and then within the sub-agencies, I can then go to the bureau level. If I'm in as a user, for instance, let's see here in the Ames laboratory, I'm only going to see Ames laboratory. I'm not going to be able to see information, again, above my level. I have access to that. But if I'm in as a level 1, I do get to see everything from level 1 down.
I got a question. So the information that you're able to see is only what we obviously put into the system? Is that
yeah.
kind of, okay. Any new Now, how does it work in terms of entries? Is it live time, or does it take it there? How does that work? In other words, if I go in, put it in, is it live right then and there?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to make sure everyone heard that online, is when you enter in information, does it exist right away, and there is no lag time. When you'll see when I submit information shortly, it's there on the platform, and then you do have the ability to edit it before you, if you've not yet submitted it for approval. Once it is submitted for approval or it is approved, then it is uneditable.
Okay.
Okay. But you'll see that I'll show you how you can recall information as well. As we sometimes press buttons before we mean to.
Yeah.
All right. For those who do have, again, access to multiple levels, you'll see there's an expand all, collapse all. Pretty self-evident. The expand all will go ahead and expand each of these areas, depending, and I have access to multiple, so it takes a little bit of time to do that. So the screen just refreshed. Again, it'll expand all the agency levels and down, and then collapse all. We'll go ahead and pull those back. Okay. Again, typically you'll see just the agency to which you're associated and your level. All right, so looking at some of the icons then we see here on the right to get you familiar with those. I'm going to start from the outside in, and then I'll describe to you the different colors that we're seeing as well. All right, so let's say, for instance, the Department of Agriculture. Those of us who are data entry users, when we want to enter a single record, we're going to go ahead and use this form icon to go ahead and enter a single record. All right, I'll click that shortly, but this would then take us to the input form for us to begin to input information. And I'll demonstrate that as well. As you scroll over too, you can see that the icon description comes up for you as a reminder. Okay, so we see then the $ icon. This is what I mentioned earlier that we call the reporting period. Okay, this is an area that we can see then a group of records that we're putting into the into the system. Okay, so we would first come to data entry to put in our information, or again we'll review the bulk process for PPRT. We then would come to the reporting period once the process of input is complete and we want to go ahead and begin to submit for approval. And that's where that action takes place. You'll see here that this has already been approved, just to show you on the system when that happens. So the information has been submitted and approved by the approval user, then the icon turns green. So that lets you know, as well as the application owners, that this level is complete. Okay. Now for level 1 users, we talked about that extra step, particularly for PPRT approver users at level 1, will have a house icon. All right, that step then of telling the GSA that your entire agency's submission and approval process is complete, you'll come to the house icon, and again, I'll show you what that shortly, to update your agency status, and that will let then the application owners know that your entire agency is complete. If we drop down, let's say, an agency, and then look at the sub-agencies, I can't, from a house, a submission standpoint, tell GSA that my information is complete until all of the $ are green. Okay? So that will be an indication to you that all of these sub-agencies and or bureaus, depending on the levels, are complete.
Excuse me.
Okay?
Excuse me. The data entry, is that when you want to put your data in, and once you complete the data, then you go to the money to send to approve, to send to the higher approval?
Correct. Okay. Yep. So the question was just, again, you come to the data entry icon to enter in information, and then the $ is our reporting period where you would begin the process of submitting for approval. Okay. For the data entry users. Okay, and then our approval users, we're going to review this, but we would come back up to the approvals area to go ahead and approve the information. Okay, so we're really now operating as the data entry user. And just the caveat there, the approval user would use the house icon then as the final step to tell GSA once everything has been input and approved that everything is ready and complete.
This might be for Gary now. Of course, we did a little bit of reorg, so when I go in and look at it, when it opens up and I need to reorg and I need to make changes to the sub-organizations and stuff, that'll be done rather quickly. I go to the help desk
Yeah, if there's a revision to your organizations, we can generate a help desk ticket, and that will be done within a 24-hour period, I think.
Okay.
So there shouldn't be any time lost in that, because we know that sometimes there are some reorganizations within departments, so there might be some new agencies that come on board under your organization that has to be updated, or some deleted or whatever. So the help desk will take care of that for you.
Yep, absolutely.
I have a question too.
Sure.
Is a automatic email generated when it goes up the hierarchy, the next step? Is that where they get an email?
Yeah, good question. Just make sure everyone heard that online. Does an email get generated once we step through the process? So if we think back to our process diagram, yes, if I'm submitting information for approval, the approver gets an email notification that something is ready for them, and then when that information is either approved or rejected or reassigned, then the submitter gets the email notification of the status. And then you'll see in the system where we can check on that as well. Good question. All right, let me just scroll down quickly then to show you if I do reject a particular item, then we get a red icon. Okay, so that lets you know if you're at that level that something has been rejected in addition to the email notification. If that has been rejected, you then do have the ability to go back and edit your data within that reporting period. Hopefully the approver has let you know what is wrong or missing in the comment section, which we'll take a look at. Then you could resubmit.
So when it's green, that means it was submitted to the house. I'm just going to use the picture of the house. So once the house, if the house disapproves, it would change the money sign back to red.
Right, and it depends, you know, it's not always the level 1 approver, depending on how the approvers are set up. If we take a look at Department of Justice, you know, there could be people at the same level that are approving, but the house icon is definitely for the level 1 approver. It could be that they are approving all information, but yeah, if any of the reporting periods get rejected, it'll be red. If it's still pending or in process, it just remains white and gray. And then green means, yes, it's been submitted and then approved. Okay. So just wanted to give you a lay of the land here before we step through the process. So hopefully, again, if you have questions, please let us know in the chat for those online. Again, I'm going to put on my data entry hat. So as a reminder, we came to the data entry tab. I'm going to work with ESD to begin with. I'm going to make sure I'm on the right fiscal year. And then for today, I'll go ahead and use the Department of Defense. Okay, so again, I'm going to do a single record first for ESD coming into the entry form. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead just today, for today's example, choose exchanged, and then choose option 11 for the FSC group. The one thing I'm mentioning here for these users, and this is noted, I believe, in your user guide on page 21, that these some of these contain flagged items, and the items that are flagged are listed there in the user guide. I did choose a flagged item, so you can see then how that appears on the reporting period page. So when you do submit this information, it will indicate that this is a flagged item. Okay. So for my quantity, go ahead and enter 2. And for cost, you don't have to put in the dollar sign or anything, just put in your whole numbers, and it'll change it to currency once you submit. And then our allowance. And any additional comments. Okay, for either the approval user or other people viewing the information. As you remember, we have the read user roles as well. So this is my preferred method. Depending on how many records I do have to enter, I can save this or save and new, or if for some reason I want to cancel, this will take me back to the previous screen. The one thing before I do, I want to show you that I mentioned before, the reporting period ID. Okay, so we are now entering in a new property record, new property data, and that's being associated with this reporting period ID. Okay, this is a system-generated unique ID that is going to be unique to your level, so the agency and the level, as well as the particular fiscal year that you're reporting to. Okay? So you want to note that, and I'll show you where to find that in a couple of different places, particularly for your bulk upload process. This will be a unique ID that we'll need to grab and put into our Excel spreadsheet so that the system knows where to associate the new records against. Okay? So you can think of it really as just a way to collect information and associate it within the system. But the reporting period ID is what it's called. Okay, you want to keep that the same. It's system generated, don't alter it, or else you'll get an error. For today's purpose, I'm just going to click Save, so you can see then when we do that, as we had the question earlier, we're then brought to the new property data page. Okay, so this is also then a unique ID for this particular record being submitted to this particular reporting period. So in the case, perhaps you can see that the currency changed, as I mentioned earlier, so we don't have to enter in the dollar signs. I want to review this and make sure everything is complete. All right. In the case that I do need to alter something, perhaps my information, I entered it incorrectly, but I can go ahead and edit that and save it here too.
I have a question. So if you have $8,230.50, do we put the decimal 50 or just round it down ourselves?
I understand that we round up, but
Yeah.
can we confirm that?
Will the system do it by itself, or do we have to do it?
No, that's something that you would do. The system wouldn't round it up, but from what I understand, we're putting in whole numbers and not necessarily putting in the change.
Okay.
But I'll go ahead and parking lot that as well.
Designed that if we wanted to be able to round up, if there were dollars associated with it.
So you can't.
I'll go ahead and when we have Pranav on, see if he can address.
Accept decimal.
That's what I thought, just whole numbers,
There's
right?
no option to round,
Okay.
no mathematical program that doesn't accept decimal.
Okay.
You put a decimal, something should come up and say,
It won't accept the decimal.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's good.
Okay, so so just so those online, make sure you're hearing us in the room. Question was more about entering in the amounts here for the cost. So whole numbers only, no decimals, and it's not necessarily going to round up for you, so that is something that you'll need to do on your own. Okay. So you can see that the reporting period here is a link. So again, it's a way for us to navigate to that screen. This would be the same as if I clicked the dollar sign icon that I reviewed earlier, so just that entry point. So I'm going to click that now so you can see, again, that this is the reporting period with this unique ID, and it's telling you which fiscal year that you're reporting against, and there are statuses that we'll review shortly, but that are important in terms of when you're ready for submission to approval.
Is that part in the book? The one you hit previously before you got to that page? It's not there, I didn't see it.
The link?
Yeah,
I'm not sure if
I
she...
didn't see the link there.
No.
Okay, so that link, I need to put this in when I have to,
And I'll review that. So the question was just, in the user guide, is that specifically called out for that reporting period link? And I don't believe that's been noted there. So,
can you go back and show me?
Yep.
Where you got it so I can stick it in somewhere?
Absolutely. So I'll go back to, and you can see here that again, your record that I just entered here is also a link. So that's an access point to get back to that record. So the question was just a reminder of, how I'm navigating through the system. So I'm back here on the record page of the one I just entered, and then your reporting period ID is a navigational link. Again, as you scroll over certain links as well, you do get some pop-ups that you can look at to be reminded of certain information, but you can use the link itself to come to that reporting period icon. Now, I'll show you, let me step back. So if I come back to the data entry tab, just to show you the other way to navigate this. Again, I was in the Department of Defense. Okay, I can click the dollar sign icon, see the incomplete reporting period. This will get me to that same screen. Okay, so that's just different ways to navigate to the same area within the platform.
So you're given, I see that, I guess a unique ID for each entry. Okay. Now in an entry, you can't have more than, in other words, does one go with, can you have more than, or how does that work?
That's a good question. So, can we have more than one entry? And that will be through the bulk upload process.
Okay.
But otherwise, when we're entering in new information, you'll see that we can enter one at a time.
Okay.
And then there's the Save a New button if we want to kind of continue with just the form input. We would click Save a New, be brought to another similar page.
I understand what you're saying as far as like when you put that first entry.
Yeah, can I put one line, multiple lines? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one record at a time through the web form.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll review the bulk upload process.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
And then, yeah, so you'll see that again, the reporting period I mentioned then is your group of property records. Okay? Each of these, as was pointed out here in the room, that each of these have their own unique property, unique ID. So again, these are just ways that the system needs to associate information and be able to group it up for you in the reporting period. Okay, if we remember back to our process diagram, then I would enter all the information. If I feel like at my level that all of this information is complete, those two sub-steps that we looked at earlier, I need to update my organizational status, data status, and then submit for approval. Okay. So to do that, I'm first going to click Edit here on the reporting period. And you'll see that I have the option to drop down the data status for the organization. By default, it's incomplete. I'm going to change it to complete. There could be times I might have no data to report for this fiscal period for your particular level. Okay? If that's the case, just be sure that there are no records, like we saw earlier that with the property. There have to be 0 records within this reporting period for you to have no data to report. You'll receive an error. If you do try, it won't let you do it nonetheless, but that option is there for you in case that's what's required for that particular reporting period.
Before you complete that, can you step back one step?
Oh, sure. Gary's just asking me to step back. Let me cancel out of here.
Okay, just explain the last edit with the yes on it for the flag.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thanks, Gary. So as you remember, before I talked about the certain items being flagged, particularly within the FSD group. So because I chose 11, which is a flagged item, then here, then on the reporting period page, we see the yes as a flagged group. Okay. So this just lets those reviewers know, and the approval users in particular, that that it's flagged. So I just saw a note that perhaps my sharing is not coming through any longer, so let me stop and start again and make sure we can get everyone with us.
Just a note on the flag group. Those flag FSGs or FSGs are the ones that we have on the prohibited list. If you're familiar with the exchange sale data, there are certain classes that you can't do exchange sale on. So those are the ones that's been flagged. We're using that for both in the non-federal recipient and for the exchange sale data. And those are the prohibited FSGs that's associated with the 10239.
All right, thank you, Gary. And just give me one moment here. I'm seeing that the setup of the system changed, so let me... Okay, yeah, just the layout of the system changed when I stopped and reshared, so let me just make sure that's set up and reshare again. Make sure everyone's with us. Okay, so again, pretending where we are data entry users, we've gone ahead and submitted the data. And now what I want to do is go through and begin to update my organization status. So we're going to look at pages 25 if you're following along the user guide. I came to the reporting period, which I use the $ icon for my particular level. You can see that I'm associated with the Department of Defense here. So I then want to come in to edit the reporting period, change my status to complete, and then save that. Okay, you can see then the status changed. So again, if it is no data to report, in case I wasn't sharing earlier, just make sure that there are no records here in your related transactions area. There should be 0. And sometimes this page can be long, but you can see that, again, as you roll over different links in the platform, you'll get information as the way for you, if the page is longer, to jump down to that area. All right, then the final step from a data entry user is to submit for approval. So we're going to go ahead in the reporting period, just get a little pop-up reminding us that once it's submitted for approval, you can no longer edit. These records will be locked. That's okay in my case. Now for this, you want to go ahead and change your next approver. Again, you're going to be finding the individual to which you want to send this to. And for our purposes, we're going to use custom portal user, which is just a way for the system to tag the type of users that we're using. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and our test accounts here just have generic names, but you would basically type in the individual's name who you're looking for and then click our search icon. Let me try to find our approval users. So this is going to be the individual who, again, is my approver. This would typically be a real name. Okay, so you just click on that to then put that in the field and then send to next approver. As we noted earlier, this approver is going to be getting an email notification saying that something has been sent to them for approval. In that email, you'll see that there's a link that you can follow to come back into the system. Okay. Before we go through the reapproval process, I want to step through the other reporting types, which you'll see is very similar. But again, on the reporting period page, when it is submitted for approval, you can see that now these records are locked, okay, with that lock icon. And you can also review this page to see the status, so the approval history. In the case, again, we press a button when we didn't mean to, there is the ability for us to go ahead and recall the approval request.
As long as it's saying pending.
Exactly, right? So Pat's reminding me just to go ahead and make sure, yes, you can recall approvals that are in pending status only, but not once they're approved. And of course, if they're rejected, no need to recall. I'll show you, what it looks like with the rejected record. Okay. So we've now just completed, if you think back again to that process diagram, that first step that we reviewed earlier, the data approver. We entered the information, we updated our organization status, and we entered, submitted for approval. Okay. And this is again for ESD. So I want to step through it quickly for the NFRD. And then again, we'll look at eFAS, or then we'll look at the bulk upload process, and then look at eFAS, and then go through approval. So I'll move a little bit quicker because again, it's going to be very similar for each of the reporting types. I do see a couple of chats, so let me open that up and see if we have questions that I can take a look at. For some reason, it's not coming up on my screen.
So I can read it. Candy wrote, I saw might not be able to edit. Are there exceptions to the rule? That question.
Is it she's saying she might not, or is when can we not edit? Maybe you can clarify your question.
I'll respond to her. And then Robbie Goddard asked, what is an example as to why it would be rejected? That's a business policy.
Yeah, the question, why might a request or a data be rejected, and Gary's going to help address that.
Well, once it goes up for review, that's probably an internal thing as to who's reviewing your data. If they see something that is out of kilter, or if there's something that they have suspicions about, they might send it back to you for you to recheck. So it's probably a management thing that goes up the line. I know that once data is is to us. I do a review myself of your data, and if I see something that doesn't look right to me, particularly if there's a high dollar value, or say if you reported something and it's got say $1 billion or $1 trillion on it, I know something is wrong. So cases like that, things can be rejected to send back to you to make sure that you do a review to correct it or make sure you're reporting the correct thing. Or sometimes it might come up, you might miss it. It's being flagged now, but you might submit something that you said you did an exchange sale on a FSG 10, and I know that's illegal. So if it comes to me, I'll push it back and say, please review this. This can't be right. So there are some reasons why things will be rejected to you, mostly through your management review and sometimes through my review from GSA.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, and there was another question, a good question from David Milton at Department of State. He asked, does the system catch error? For example, you just showed $0 for exchange net sales proceeds, which should be at least some amount exchange or sales proceeds.
That's good.
So,
That's a good one, Gary.
it's a value, and it's not smart enough to know what.
Yeah, the systems accept the value. And if you notice that when we do our reports and put them online, if you're doing an exchange sale and there was nothing, no dollar or allowance or proceeds associated with that, in the final report, I don't report it because it will cause more questions than anything else. Why do you have an exchange sale transaction when you're not getting any money for it? So to avoid the answering a question that we don't have an answer for, I'll be honest, I remove it. You know, and that's what I do. So that's the process that we go through here, because this data is not just for you. It's being looked at closely in the last several months by the IGs and GAO. So they are having some questions about the data that you are reporting, and we're trying to keep you from answering all of those questions. So we try to clean up stuff before we give it to them. So the system is not smart enough to remove zeros. It's looking for a value. As long as the value is there, it's going to accept it.
Now my question, in terms of dollar threshold or capitalized assets, do this system, would that be anything that's, you know, obviously that's an eye-opener too, it's a capitalized assets. Is that something that...
No, that's more of an inventory control thing for your agencies, because you manage all your capitalized assets. We're just looking for things going out of the government,
Okay.
not in the middle process of use.
All right.
I just want to make sure.
So,
Okay, a couple more questions.
they're good questions too. Robbie Goddard, so the report is done prior to the action being taken rather than after?
The report.
The report.
Now, you keep in mind, this is all after the fact data. This data is coming to us after all the transactions are complete from your side. So it's disposal actions that have taken place, the action is complete, and you're just reporting to us the data that you've completed that transaction on. So it's nothing that's, what was the question?
I guess he's asking when to submit the data, is it prior to the action or after?
No, all the data is submitted after the action. It's all this data is after real time, after you've done everything that you need to do. The actions are complete, the property is gone, and you need to report the data to GSA.
It's the previous fiscal years, right?
Yeah, it's always the fiscal year, the prior fiscal year. So this year is coming up is 2018. So you'll be reporting 2017 data.
another important question. Mark Williams asked, can the approver make corrections to the data?
That's a good question. I can address that unless you want to augment. But that approver user would need data entry, that user role we talked about earlier. So the approver user, if they wanted to go ahead and alter the record, if they had the data entry user role also, then they would be able to update the record themselves. Right. And if not, then you wouldn't see the edit button that I showed earlier on the records, and you would need to go ahead and reject that and send it back to the submitter.
So, but once it's approved and it goes through, it would have to come back though. In other words, once I hit submit, I can't edit anything from my level. It would have to go up the chain, and for example, I do something, oh man, I made a mistake. So I would have to ask the approver to kick it back to them? Okay.
Well, again, so the question is, yeah, let's say, and I'll show you this again, in case I do submit it for approval and I perhaps notice something awry, I can, if before it's approved, I can recall my approval request. Okay, so that would be on the reporting period page. That'll pull it back. The approver who I submitted to would also be notified that the user has recalled this. Okay, but if for some reason it is or it has been approved already, and you do then notice errors, we would then have to obtain the help of the support.
Oh, support.
Yeah, to kind of flip something on the back end for us to reset.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. That's definitely why they're there to help us. Sometimes we fat finger some things.
Yeah.
I do it myself. All right. Any other questions to review? Good questions. Otherwise we can...
Yeah, let's move forward.
Okay. All right, so again, now keeping my data entry hat on, I'm going to now move to the PPRT NFRD. So again, we want to make sure if you are entering in more than one type that you choose, again, the correct radio box. Ensure you're on the right fiscal year. You can see the page here is very similar. I didn't highlight earlier, but we'll do now that you have this text, which is reiterating what I'm going through in the training in case you want to review that when you come back. All right. Same sort of setup here in terms of the levels, expand all, collapse all. And you can see types of indicators, although for NFRD data, instead of a dollar icon for reporting period, it has the people icon. Okay, but just again to review, as a data entry user, if I want to enter in single records, I would come in and enter in using the data entry form. I'll do that shortly. A reporting period, a group of new property records would then be found here in the reporting period. And then as a level 1, and when I'm ready to go ahead and tell the GSA that all levels, are complete, I would then come to the house icon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for those of us who are online, if you can make sure your phones are muted, that would be great, just so we don't have any background noise competing with the recording. All right, so, and you can see similar statuses. So when it's approved in green, when rejected in red, when still either in progress or pending, remains white and black here in the case for the people icon, or gray for the others. All right, so again, data entry users, data entry tab, choose the right application, right fiscal year. For this purpose today, I'll do a Department of Commerce example. As we saw before, I now have a new form. Again, I'm entering a new property record, but here for NFRD, and it's shown by the type of information I need to put in. You can see that the reporting period is associated automatically, so again, don't alter that, but same type of mechanism happening. Recipient name, we're going to go ahead and enter that in. When I was first using the system, just remember it's not 2 fields. I started putting in the last name here, the full name for the first field, zip code for second. And in the case, for some reason, you don't remember what a particular field is, you see these little help icons and bubbles that you can roll over and get a description of the field. So for instance, FSC is Federal Supply Classification Group, and then we reviewed that earlier. Same type of information in terms of it being flagged, which I'll review shortly. So just choosing a couple of sample items for today. I'll choose a different item as well, but just to show you flagged, another flagged item would be hand tools. So this will appear then when I enter it on the reporting period page that it is flagged in that column. Our FEA checkbox, okay, check this is true. Okay, again, if we're not remembering what that is, federal electronic assets, okay, check this box. The assets qualify as described in the FMRB 34. So for today's purpose, I will, and then if you do that, you need to enter in a weight. One thing I want to point out too, as you can see, some of the fields, which I didn't in the first form, but they have the red line here. Those indicate those are required fields. You won't be able to save any of the form information that you're putting in the form unless these fields are filled out. Okay. We've left the FEA as optional. Again, so similar here, putting in whole numbers, no decimals, and you don't have to put in the $sign. The system will do that for us, and any comments to review. Again, as a data entry user, preferred method, if I want to keep doing this, I do save and new. I get a new form, enter in information. I'm a fast typer, I can use that method, or just for today, I'll click a save. And again, come to that particular property data record page. I'm skipping over this first area here, as you'll see, and we'll get to chatter a little bit later. But each record that we put in the system has a chatter feed associated, or can have a chatter feed associated with it. So if there's those of us who are operating on, this record together, or reporting period, we'll also have. I can use chatter as a way to collaborate, but in the system versus email or outside, right? But that's just what we're skipping over. But you can see again the property detail that I entered. The edit button is available for me to modify in case I need. And perhaps I mistyped in something, can save that. And again, as I did before, you can come to the reporting period to which this is now associated using the link here on the property page. Okay, and this would be the same thing as if I were to go to data entry, come to Department of Commerce, and then choose that people icon. Okay, so same page, but just different entry points. And you can see that then the group of records here, group of property records, with each having a unique ID associated with this reporting period with its own unique ID. Okay, so again, this number is Department of Commerce, the level at which I've entered, which is level 1, and the reporting period at which I'm reporting against, which is the 2017. Okay, so that's what that number typically represents. And if I need to, I can come into each of the records to review, or you do also have the edit buttons here as a data entry user. If I have that, and you can see our flagged column that we noted earlier, and then the FEA weight column in our quick view. An additional way for all record types or data entry users, when you're on the reporting period page, you'll see a new property button. Okay, this is also another way to enter in. If for some reason I want to go ahead and use the web form versus bulk upload, I get to a new property record page, put in the information, and save as I just did. So just depending on how you're using the system or where you spend a lot of your time, it's just try to give you options in terms of and the ability to enter in information using multiple entry points. And I forgot to point out earlier, but we've moved on to the NFRD. So in page 28 and kind of beyond in our user guide. I'm probably now up to page 31 since I'm on the reporting period page. As we did earlier, we're still in step 1, but our sub-steps, we want to go ahead and update our organizational status, getting ourselves prepared to submit for approval. So we go ahead and edit the reporting period, same options. Okay. If no data to report, just make sure there's no records in this reporting period. We'll complete ours for today. And same approval process. You can use any of these buttons. Same warning about the records that will be lost unless we need to recall. Again, just something that you might forget, but again, reminders to use custom portal user and then begin to search for our users that will associate. Let me do, go. So again, you'll be using real names in the system. We just have some generic test accounts. Once you get that name populated in the fields, send to that approver. Again, email sent to let the person know. The system will send the email. They have something waiting for them to approve. And then once we'll go through the approval process, you'll see whether I reject, reassign, or approve. The submitter gets a notification. And you can see the history here today. So just to show you the recall process again. Oops, sent this, didn't mean to. Could just click recall. Put in a comment about why I'm recalling. This will get sent to the approver, and you'll see our history will change. The person I submitted to will get a notification, but now it went from pending to recalled. My status is still complete, but once I do go back and edit the information that I may have saw that was not correct, I can do that now. My edit buttons, you can see the lock icon is not there, but I can then go back once again and submit for approval. And once you do enter in your approver, as you can see, the system is remembering sort of what you put in. So, and then you can see our history has changed. All right. Any questions about NFRD data entry? As you can see, pretty similar between the two types. All right. Lastly, let me just briefly review the eFAS. And we're going to skip GovSales since that's for the oversight users only. So here again with eFAS, just a reminder for those on the line, if you can mute your phones, that would be great. I want to make sure I'm choosing the correct reporting period. You can see that this is not yearly, it's quarterly. So we want to make sure we're reporting against the right fiscal quarter. Once we do that, then again, depending on your level and the agency and bureau which you're associated with, you'll have access to the data entry form and the reporting period. Okay, as we mentioned earlier, there's no house icon as there's no need for eFAS to be submitted in that step to the GSA as we talked about with PPRT. Question in the room, go ahead.
We're doing it by quarter. Since it's the first time, we're going to have to go through and do all the quarters just completed this year. Correct. Okay.
Yeah, so beginning October 1st, you'll be doing, like I chose, the previous fiscal quarter, right? Or is it right. July to September, or are they starting? That's a good question. Let me look to Gary for that. For eFAS, we're just trying to, a question is about.
That data, you put it in. So, September 3rd.
But it's done by quarter, so
It's done by quarter.
So this year we're going to have to go back and do each FY17 quarter different because it goes from January to March. So we're going to have to do all 4 quarters this time.
Any information that would have been put into the prior system would come over.
Okay.
So yeah, the question is about, we have to go ahead and enter previous quarters data for the full fiscal year. So as I noted earlier, the information in the previous platform, if those were completed, let's say for the first 3 quarters, right, then those would be in the system when you enter for review, and then you would need to enter in the last quarter depending on what you may not have completed in the previous system. Because I believe we locked it down on September 15th.
September 15th.
Yeah, so for data migration, so anything that may not have not been entered in from the 15th on
Okay.
for the last quarter
Have
you would
put
need to
it
go
in.
ahead and enter.
Okay.
Good question. Thanks for the help there, Gary.
Okay. Sorry, before we move forward, we
Sure.
have a couple questions. I think some more policy-related questions. David Melton at Department of State is asking, SSG 51 is valid for providing to contractor. Why flag? Name would be a company name and not person unless personal services contract. SSG 51.
Yeah, FSG 51 is, I think it was just used as an example. In reality, well, 51 is flagged under the prohibited list because that deals with hand tools and things of that nature. So if you're talking about exchange sale, 51 will be flagged. For non-federal recipient reports, 51 would not be
Hi,
flagged.
Johnny. Are you watching this webinar about the PPRT?
Yeah.
Hi, if you're online, if you can mute your phones, that would be great, because we're hearing some background noise.
Hey, Robert sent out. It's about reporting personal property.
We hear you.
It's the new.
Yeah, if you're online, if you can mute your phones if you're talking to somebody else, that would be helpful.
Okay, so David Milton has a follow-up. He says, but this was non-federal report, not
I know
exchange.
what's going on right now.
Yeah.
I'm watching it at 7, but this is that.
Yeah, Dave, this was not said. He just used that as an example to show the possibility of the flags. But in reality, it would not be flagged in the non-federal recipient report. You're right. So that was just for training purposes, but for the knowledgeable people that are aware of non-federal recipient, 51 would not be flagged on the non-federal recipient report.
It's, I was wondering, well.
Seriously?
Hi. Yeah, excuse me, we hear somebody talking. If you can go ahead and mute yourself.
Or do you do it, or?
We're going to try to find the mute option here in the screen.
And then Robbie, well, now I lost my pod.
He's out too, but this is for the one I'm watching right now.
Can you send her?
I had to remove my attendee pod so I can respond to the Q&A.
Sorry, just one more question in the Q&A pod that we want to review for everybody.
In the chat.
Or the
Okay. I think David's okay. Okay. And
Give me some tea.
okay. Robbie had a question. Still doesn't know if we should be doing this on furniture we donate and items we e-cycle. This specific data entry mode. The donated furniture and e-cycle.
Donated furniture? Donated furniture how? Are you going to state agencies? E-cycle, anything that goes to a e-cycler, recycler should be reported. The donation of furniture, I'm not quite sure what the question is getting to. When I look at donation, I look at something going to eligible donee through the state, through your state agencies. So if you can clarify that question a little, if you can clarify that question more, make sure we can get a correct answer to you.
Thanks, Gary. And just for those of you who are watching online, I have to disconnect and reconnect, so we'll continue answering the question, but in case you see the screen stop sharing, that's why.
Question in the room, we thought, was that you thought non-federal recipient was just for recycle? No, non-federal recipient extends to everything that the government gives outside to anybody outside of the government. So it's any type of property that leaves the government in any particular way. Yeah. Just to clarify, when we talk about Federal Electronic Assets, FEA, FEA was generated through FMR Bulletin B34 and FMR Bulletin B34. It has the instructions or the guidance of giving property, managing federal electronic assets. Under that bulletin, I think there are several classes that are included in that particular bulletin. FSG 1, FSG 70 is the main class because it deals with computers and ADP equipment. I think we have something in 3610 or 36 or 3610 that deals with the printers and copiers. Then we move, I think it's 58 that deals with some type of communication equipment. Then 67, 6720 or 6730, I think that deals with photographic equipment. There might be a couple of more that I'm missing, but those are the things that are considered as FEA. And if you give FEA away and you mark it as FEA through a certified recycler, that's when we are looking for the weight to accompany that.
Thank you, Gary. Any others to review or? All right, keep the questions coming. Great questions. I'm going to complete again the last data entry type in terms of eFAS. So again, as I mentioned, I came as the data entry tab as the data entry user for eFAS. Similar setup. We have the data entry form and then the $ icon for the reporting period. Again, we want to make sure we choose the correct fiscal quarter. And I'll get to where we're reporting information, but as I did earlier, we're going to go ahead and I'm not going to enter in any data here. Again, we have in the test system just some examples to save some time. We have some DOJ folks here. We'll come into DOJ. All right, but just to show you again, I would click the form icon and enter in my information. The red fields here, again, the required, and any comments here being optional. And once I do, click Save or Save Anew to continue. But for this type, again, we're going to just do Save because it's one record per quarter, okay, per level. And again, we have our reporting period, same type of mechanism going on. All right, so again, the reporting period page, similar setup as we saw with the other types, and same approval process. As you can see, the record that I had entered earlier as an example listed here. I can come back to that record using this link. I can edit it coming here, or as I mentioned, you can use new property in case one didn't exist already. But for our case, we want to go ahead and do the similar process of updating our organizational status. And then submitting for approval. All right, and if you don't have to search, if you've already typed that in like I did before, go ahead and send that on to the approver. Again, notification sent to that user, same options available to us. Can't edit any longer because it's already been submitted, but I could recall if need be. All right, and again, similar entry points on the eFAS. If I come over to eFAS again and choose the quarter, if I'm entering in that, the same way to get to the reporting period would be through that $ icon. And I've now moved on to pages 37 and beyond in the user guide when we're talking about eFAS, if you're following along. Okay. And then you can see this is the reporting period that I've submitted for approval. All right, so depending if we're entering in information and submitting that for approval for multiple types, and you can see pretty similar process for all three. I'm now going to go ahead and move on to put on my approver hat. Come back to the Home tab. As I mentioned earlier, you can come to the approval area here with the link on the left, or use your approvals tab here at the top. Okay, just multiple entry points to the same page.
Question.
Sure.
On the reporting period ID, is it the same for, it's different for each quarter, right, that number?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
For eFAS, the question is the reporting period ID that we can see that the system also is remembering where I've been. Yes, it's the unique fiscal, unique ID per fiscal quarter for eFAS.
Okay.
And then also related to the level that I'm associated with. You know, and now that you've asked that, I'm reminded that I skipped a step, so let me step back before we go through approvals. I didn't talk about book uploads, so let me go ahead and come here first. Still having our data entry hat back on for PPRT in particular. Entering in information in the forms like we've seen, you know, could be more time consuming. So we do have the bulk upload process. Here we see a significant amount of information that we can review, but I'll be talking more through this process. We've jumped ahead in the user guide. Go ahead and see what page we're on here. Just to make sure you can follow along, it's 58 and beyond. Okay, so similar information there to review as a reminder. All right, so some important items about this page. First, there are going to be new templates that we need to utilize. Okay, so your very first step here is to select the template that we need to use. So with PPRT, there's either going to be the ESD template or the NFRD template, or you know, if we're using both, we need to upload them separately.
What are the templates?
That's a good question. You're my audience plant. So once I choose a template type, and those online, if you can mute your phones, we're hearing a slight echo. That would be great.
Maybe a hologram.
So we choose the template type. As you can see, then the screen refreshes and we get access to. Okay, again online, if you are on the phone, if you can please mute your devices or computers or phones, that would be great.
Well, we got approved stuff. People in the field now going to
All right, so again, your first step, select the template type, and then we want to download. So once I click the link, in Google Chrome, you'll see on the bottom left here that my template has downloaded. Depending on the browser you're using, that'll differ. Open that up quickly for you to see. We can review that. Now, as we see, we have the different fields represented here as columns. All right, and then our last column, H, is an error code, which I'll talk about shortly, but you want to make sure you're filling in all of the red columns, similar as we saw online. The red means it's required.
How do we get the report? Because that's added to this template.
Yep.
I use this template. But
Good.
And the error is in your column.
Good question. Okay, so question was, where do we get the reporting period from? I'll review that shortly. Another audience plant, so thanks for that. Let me just, again, scroll over. You can see that there are some columns that, like we did in the system, that have reminders about what that column needs to contain in case we forget. There's also full instructions, so I land on the data tab by default, which is where I would put my information. And I want to, definitely reiterate that you need to use this template and not alter anything within besides entering the information. But I'll review the other worksheets that we have here in Excel, just instructions to remind you that I'm reviewing today. And then your reference.
I should read what you into. I need to catch up. I'm getting behind.
1 second.
I'll be the main one calling, asking questions.
You know who that is?
Oh. Sorry, we're trying to find out who has background noise and trying to mute that individual. But so the reference tab here reminds us, when you're putting in, through the drop downs, particularly the FSC group, what those numbers represent, because all you're going to need to enter is, as you can see, this becomes the drop down is the actual number and not the description.
The pay grade is higher, so its consequences overtime and more money for you.
All right. So again, the question earlier about where do we get this reporting period ID? So can someone here in the room remind me when I come back to the system? Copy and paste. As a data entry user, do you remember where we saw that number?
Because, for example, let's say,
In the data entry, and you go down to your unique ID or something.
So data entry, I chose the ESD.
so let's go to DOJ and
Can you get it from that recent item?
agency.
Yep.
But let's say I'm going to upload bulk data because we get a lot of data from the bulk actually. Let's say one from my agency. I'm going to see that number because obviously I have to fill that number for every single, otherwise it will give me an error if it's not correct.
Right.
So I know that, but.
Yeah, so the reporting period.
Okay, that's
Yep.
fine.
Every prison, okay, so.
Fine, just one. Oh, okay, so I have to click on them no matter what. I take that number. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Yep, so we're just reviewing where we can obtain the reporting period. So it's just a review where I've stepped.
Take it from the edit, right?
Came through the data entry tab. I came to the $ icon for ESD. For NFRD, it's going to be the people icon.
Okay.
And again, at the very top,
Dollar sign, hold on.
and it'll always be the number that starts with RP. So that's reporting period. Okay, unique ID. And if, for in the case, if you're entering in, let's say you're bulk uploading data for just Bureau of Prisons, then if I come back to my spreadsheet, then all of your data, will have this
Same ID, right?
report,
Correct.
right?
For that particular one. Okay.
Is it a maximum amount of line, or I guess we use that, I guess as much as we can, huh?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any maximum, just depending on the amount of data, that you report, it'll take more time, but I'll show you that shortly in terms of how it's processing. So those who know Excel, again, you can then, again, if we're reporting on the same level with this report ID, you can copy down. Be careful of dragging, because that will most likely increment. In my case, not, but in some Excels, if you drag down, it'll increment the number. So just be careful of that process. And then again, entering in your information. I have a quick example that I set up. Well, let me step back to the system. I'm not sure if this was the case, but let's say you're working in DOJ and you're reporting for multiple levels, then you need to come and grab each of these lanes or rows have a unique ID.
Okay.
Okay, so you would then copy and paste that and associate that to the particular records.
And when you was putting that reporting period and how you was bringing down the drop down list, is that for the amount of records that you're going to have, or you just put it on that first line?
That was just an example, yeah. So the question is, when I copied all of these, so I'm just pretending, that I have this much information to put in. But if I only have one record, I'm only going to need to put it in once, And so you need that reporting period ID on the row for as many times as you have the information, on the right for the remaining.
So we got to verify the records, find out how many records we have, then we go and do all of that?
Yep, you can put all that information. Let's say if I have 15 records, then I need to copy this down,
Thousands of records.
Then you just copy it down.
Yeah, you do the same.
Yeah.
What you suggest that you put all your data in first, or?
Yeah, and then go down, right?
go down.
Right, that makes sense.
The error code is optional, obviously.
The error code actually you leave blank. Okay, I'll show you that shortly. This will happen once we do upload. Okay, I'll complete the process for you. So come back to the system, come to the bulk upload tab. I have the ESD. I'm just using ESD type for today. So I'm going to choose ESD template. Pretend I've downloaded and filled that in. Then you're going to want to select the source. So is it your agency self-reporting? For my purpose today, I'm going to put, it's the GSA entering this information perhaps for, whoever, again, that reporting period is associated to. Choose my file on my computer. Once that's listed there, then in the system, you click Import Data. and you can see the screen refreshes a little bit with the status. This is what's called an asynchronous process, so the system is processing this in the background, again, depending on the amount of information. If it is 1,000 records, it might take a little longer, but you can see that you'll also get notified when it's complete. If I do refresh, I'll click on that just to show you. And depending, again, on what type I've been uploaded, you can see, and I put this in on purpose, some errors. First, I uploaded a file that, perhaps I tried to use a template that I created, again, just to show you the system is not going to let it process. I'll get the error that it's incompatible. So again, use the template that's now in the system and don't alter the worksheets beyond just entering in the information. But when I do get an error, I can then see this is where the error column will be filled in by the system itself, and I can show you when I open up this CSV file that's output, the error code tells me, oops, I actually forgot this field by accident. Okay, so it's telling me exchange allow net proceeds is required. So then I see that's blank. I need to go ahead, fill this in, and then resubmit as we went through. It is an all or nothing process. So even if there's error on one record and there is 1,000 in here, none of the other records went through. So you need to correct the file, save it again, and put it up in the system. Once you do, you'll then see, basically that the status has been uploaded and no errors to report.
So they had a 0 in there, it would have kicked out an error?
No, 0 would be a valid value. Again, as we talked about earlier, there's not underlying validation rules. If there should be a value there, but it is 0, that's up to us as reviewers and approvers to make sure that all the information is accurate.
Yeah, I was like, we pull data, it says some of the prompts where the data has been submitted and we're going to email you. Is it going to email me the whole spreadsheet I just got finished doing? Email to say, okay, this has been updated or submitted.
I don't think it doesn't email you the file. It emails you, I think, a link to bring you back into the system to this page if there are errors. But I'll check with Pranav on that as well. Pranav, if you are able to let me know, like when the email is sent to the users with errors, what actually the email contains. I don't remember that offhand.
This is Gary. Just a point of clarification on this report, especially the bulk upload. When you see the source of data, this is an improvement in the platform because it allows us to identify where data is coming from. You're going to have your agency self-report. That's the data that you entered for yourselves. And the GSA data, that's the data that we will receive from FAS. And we're working with the other organizations like Unicor and U.S. Postal Service to be able to get your data. If you're doing FEA and recycling some of your property, we want to be able to pull that data from Unicor and from the United States Postal Service on your behalf. So we're going to work with them so they can provide those files to us, and those will be identified in the system as Unicor or United States Postal Service. I think this is an improvement that we can keep track of the data, where the data is coming from. So when we ask a question, where we get that data from, we can always go back and show you where it came from.
Great, thank you, Gary. And I think I saw a couple of chats, but let me see if Christine, if we need to review anything with the group. It's okay. Oh, sorry. If not, we can move forward and come back.
Yeah, let's come back and I'll...
Okay.
Read that button that you say approve or complete when we do the bulk uploads.
Okay, so the question was, where do we now approve or complete? So in essence, this process is replicating what we reviewed from the manual entry. So I didn't actually have data go in, but I'll show you, pretending if I come back, it was an ESD template. I would come back then to the Department of Defense, did I think we do? Or Justice, okay. All right, this was already rejected as earlier, but let's say we did a different level like Bureau of Prisons. Yep, I'd come into the reporting period, and again, each row would then now be represented by one of these unique property entries, okay? And then, I can go ahead and double check by clicking into them as we did earlier.
So it shows as one line item, but when you open it up, it may be multiple.
Well, each row in your Excel spreadsheet is going to be represented by, a row here. So,
Individually.
each record, will be uploaded. So if we had 1,000, we're now going to see 1,000 records listed in this area,
So
in the related transactions area. So similar to what we did before, once we're ready and we think, okay, this is all good, we're all done, we would edit our reporting period,
okay.
change that to complete, and then submit for approval to our approval user.
So you gotta go back in the system, okay.
Okay.
Gary, question. You said you're including, you're getting information from Unicore. I know when we do all when we submit it to Unicore,
Yeah. Okay,
but they fall in the DOJ.
well, the current process now, if you do if you give Unicore your recycled stuff,
Right.
currently you report that to us that you gave it to Unicore. We're going to try to work with Unicore because Unicore has that information already. Instead of putting a burden on you to report something that you've already given away, that we'll be able to pull that data from Unicore. That's our attempt.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if we can work that out, then anything that goes to Unicore that's by way of recycling, you don't have to report. We'll see if Unicore can give that to us. But we'll let you know down the line how that works out. We're in the process of working through that process.
Because I've dealt with Unicore, and I'm trying to think back in the past, the only documentation that they would get, I know when I was at NOAA, now I'm in BLM, is that the documentation that we give them is what we have, and we just give it, that's as a record, but in terms of...
They don't give anything back to you?
No, I mean, they just take what we give, a copy of, that's the ones that those are the folks that I,
We're going to try to work with them with this current template.
Right.
And when you give them stuff,
Right.
they give us back what you gave them in this template format.
Right. So I'm assuming it's going to be some type of form or some type of form that they would have to, I guess they would have to send it to us for us to fill out. And then I guess that's the only way they can report. Is that how?
No, I mean, if you're giving stuff to Unicore, they know what you're giving to them.
Right.
So they should be able to give what you gave to them. They're going to weigh it. They're going to probably classify it or what class it goes in.
Okay.
You're probably going to give them the class. So that information will follow on. But they're going to weigh it and tell us what, how it was gotten rid of, and they'll give that back to us.
Well, I was basing it on the fact that they didn't, since they never had documentation. I mean, going back, they never had documentation. They base it on us. So I guess what you're saying is they should have their own internal process. How
to account for what you have given them.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
How they account for it, they should give it to us.
Right.
Back in the format that
based on what you're saying, and I like documentation. Based on what you're saying, I like to get documentation from them. So it won't be a problem if I were to ask them.
They need to give you something back to say, yeah, we
right.
received
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
We always ask them for certification of construction and things like that when we give something to you. But what I'm trying to understand is that when the Marshal Service, when FBI and all those agencies give things to Unicore, but yet they still have to come to our office and report what they're given. Are we duplicating?
That's what we want to try to eliminate. We don't want to duplicate anything. So if they're giving it to Unicore through the FBI, when we set this thing up, and if it works like we want it to work, then you won't have to report anything from Unicore.
Yeah. But FBI and everybody else, so we should have got a call and ask all the agencies.
But see, it comes up to you, and you can control what's being reported once it gets to you, right? Because you report on behalf of your agency. So that's going to be a management process that you have to put in place. Anything that's going from the bureaus up to us that's going to Unicor, we don't no longer need to report because Unicor provides. But it's in process. We're working on it, and we'll keep you abreast of how that works out. But right now, since the process is not in place, we ask that anything that you do to Unicor or any other certified recycler that you report as your non-federal recipient report.
Okay, great. I just I answered a few questions in the chat, but just to review for everybody, as we reviewed in the system, as you're entering information into the spreadsheet, you're going to be using whole numbers and not decimals. And yeah, if I upload an initial set of information, particularly against the same reporting period, and then I do subsequent information, it can happen, in separate times. It'll just keep adding it to the system, and again, associating it to whatever reporting period that we're listing here in the spreadsheet. Okay, so it can happen all at once, or if you do it in multiple batches, that's okay too. Just remember you would do ESD and NFRD separately.
Question. Every year when we do this, are you going to put something on the website saying use the current spreadsheet? Because I know sometimes y'all probably will make changes to the Excel.
Yeah, if for some reason, yeah, so there was a question about if, let's say, next fiscal year, if there's perhaps a change, let's say maybe a field is added or subtracted or changed, definitely, make sure you use the template provided here in the system, but we would create communications and notifications around that change. Good point. Okay. But once you do download it, until you hear of a change, you can definitely, you don't have to download it every single time. You can, once you download it once, you can save the regular template and then save your other data sets with their own file names. Okay. All right, I think we're now ready to move to approvals. Good question. Now putting again on my approver hat, moving to step 2 for all reporting types. Minimize that. So again, I can use the approvals tab, or I can, on the home tab, use my approval link if I'm an approval user. So a couple of things, you're going to always keep your view to items to approve, so that'll be your default. You can see I have one type. I've been sending it to a different reporting user, but I have one here on the current user I've been using to show you an example. If I had multiple ones listed here, again, you're going to now approve information by reporting period. Okay, so this again is going to be a group of individual property data records. So once I come to that reporting period, this is going to be the same as if I again had clicked that $sign icon or the people icon in the different reporting types. And as an approval user, I would want to come into the reporting period and take a look. I can either use the quick information to do a view, or I can click into each record and dive deeper, okay, and do a review that way. If I do that, again, you want to step back using your reporting period link to come back and even come back to the approval step. Okay, once I'm confident then that this is something I want to go ahead and move forward, I can either do one of two things, is come back, click this, and use the approve, reject, or reassign buttons here. Okay, approve, reject is the same button. You'll see as I go in there, there's two options as I get into that. Reassign is a separate function. This would be in the case, perhaps for some reason, something was sent to you, and you need, you're maybe not the approver for that particular reporting period. Just like we did with the approval process, you can click reassign and go ahead and search for that user and save, and that will then kind of transfer that record to that new person. Okay, so for today's purpose, we're going to go ahead and approve and reject this particular reporting period. Best practice, putting in comments, approvals we may not need a comment, but particularly if we are going to reject, you would definitely want to let the user know exactly why it's being rejected, perhaps what they need to modify. And then just for today's purpose, I'm going to go ahead and approve so we can complete the process. but you can see I have both buttons available to me, and then the full history available to me here to see what's happened so far.
I got a question.
Sure, Gary?
I think this might relate to Mike has a question too. Bulk upload. If I upload something from GSA for the Department for Unicorn, Bureau of Prisons, and then DOJ headquarters came in and uploaded something for the Bureau of Prisons, would that data be accepted, or would it overwrite each other, or what?
Yeah, it's my understanding that it would not overwrite, and if it was, you're saying that it would be the same data set?
It would be different sources of data, different data. Because I'm pulling from the GSA and they're pulling from their own internal. Correct.
Yeah. I'll double check with Pranav. I'm not sure if he's on with us, but if not, I can parking lot. My assumption would be that both data sets would be uploaded because there's unique property detail IDs that are being associated. It'll probably duplicate the data set and not throw you back.
Yeah.
But I'll double check on that.
I was going to ask that earlier, like when you said those sub.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, if you're doing a bulk upload and you upload one file and then you re-upload that same file with more data, it's going to duplicate the initial records that you already had uploaded. It doesn't check that this data has already been inputted or not.
And
No, it doesn't
check
check
on the source, right?
No, it doesn't.
That's what I think he
Nope,
was
it does not
looking
check
at
on the source.
in particular.
On that. Of a reporting. You said that it doesn't. You said it does duplicate.
It would, yes, it would. As my assumption is correct, because it's not checking on the source or checking on the duplication, so we would have to manually address that.
So that will be something then that we have to send to the help desk.
If for some reason there's a double data set, then yes, to get those records removed, we'd have to have the assistance of the help desk.
And that was my thought, because I send something to Unicorn asking for what they have, and then if we're uploading. Okay, if I do, let's just use Dave, because this is one of the questions Dave from State had. If I do a GSA uploads through their system and give me their information, and I go in as GSA data as my source, and I upload for the Department of State their data. Okay, the Department of State comes behind me. They review what I've done. And they've done a check, and now they're ready to upload their self-reporting data, agency self-reporting data. They go in, they hit self-report, agency self-report, and they upload the data. Okay, so what I've loaded and what they loaded should be added on to each other, and one file not overwrite the other.
Correct. Yeah, it's like we had, no matter whether, it's not checking if the data is the same. It is, particularly if it has the same reporting period, it's just going to keep adding those records to that reporting period, no matter what you've indicated here in the source. But if it's duplicate data sets submitted by two different people, the system was not going to
duplicate data sets, but the data is not the same.
Right, I mean, like the information that you're putting in the system will be, because two people are entering it, even though you're choosing different sources, if it's the same reporting period, it'll be entered twice in the system if you're uploading it, if two different people are uploading the same information, despite the source being different.
What if GSA gives the agency the option whether they want to do it themselves or let you do it? So some agencies, managers make them do it, and want them to verify all that.
We're trying to avoid duplication is what we're trying to avoid.
So if they say that they want you to do it, then they won't do it. But if they tell you we want to do it, then you won't do it. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Give the agency the option.
I thought, maybe I'm missing something. I thought,
I'm not doing it.
I thought each,
Get it together.
I thought each group had a unique number, and I thought that the number would be the factor in terms of determining, you know, in other words, if I have one group and have subgroups, I thought each group would have a number so we can avoid the duplication. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe.
Yeah, I think his question, and make sure I'm understanding it correctly, but like here, let's just use Department of State, as you mentioned. You know, if I'm having two different people report property detail records, you know, against this same reporting period, even though from the bulk upload process, if I'm choosing self-report, like I do self-report and then you do GSA, those two sets of information are going to be, you know, entered into the system. The system's not going to block us from doing that. And particularly if we're choosing that same reporting period in both of our Excel files. So that's what he's saying. Is there a way we can get the system to do that? But at present, no. It's going to be, you know, we're going to have to figure out manually how we don't do that. And it's not going to overwrite the data either. It's just going to create, you know, if I had 50 records in my Excel file, I'd have 50, and then when you put it into the bulk upload, it's going to add 50. So we'll have 100. You know, 2 of each step. Or 2, yeah. So we'll have to figure out if, you know, if that is the case that we feel like that might happen, we're going to have to do that through a manual sort of business process. Communication of some kind. Because there's no, you know, but yeah, because we're not putting in, these are system generated IDs. It's, you know, it's not going to block us from putting in the same data.
Now, I guess the AAC codes and nothing like that will help, you know, adding the code maybe to.
ID number will go with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
It's not going to identify your uploads. I mean, the items.
And that will have to come, I guess, through the GSA part of it, not from us, right? Because that system is set. GSA, I'm assuming that's well, I know the system is set on its own defaulting codes or whatever, right? Or whatever codes they use.
And Greg going to retire these on the 30th.
Yeah, so we just meet Gary.
Hopefully, if we enter the data, before you enter your agency data and you do your review, you can determine if data is duplicate. But most of the time, the data that we get from GSA is really, I have not seen duplications in it, because you report things that you've done outside of, most agencies report things done outside of GSA access.
I'm not talking about GSA necessarily. I'm really talking about Unicor.
Well,
like the post office and stuff.
Yeah, we have to work that out. That's still a work in process.
Yeah, I'm talking about them. I'm not talking about the GSA stuff. I'm talking about that. If I put my own Unicor stuff in and then you put my Unicor stuff in, because every agency is used to doing that now.
Yeah. Well, how it is now is how you report for this year, because we don't have an agreement with Unicor. We don't have an agreement with USPS to give us their data.
No.
So you continue to do it the way that you're doing it now. If you report it to Unicor, you still send that to us as certified recycling.
Oh yeah, so just to be mindful of other people entering similar information as yourself, and try to avoid that. So let me come back to the approvals tab, and you'll see that the record I had here is no longer here, so that means it's definitely moved through the process. I did neglect to mention earlier again, in the user guide, approvals is on page 50 and beyond, so it steps you through particularly approving a record, but then steps also to reject a record very similar to approving and reassigning, so in case you need a refresher there. Now, our last step, again, particularly for PPRT, ESD, and NFRD, is going to be to indicate to GSA by updating our overall agency status. Okay, similar to what we see here with the Department of Agriculture, we want to go ahead and let GSA know that all levels of the agency have input information, and again, we can do that once. We see all of the dollar icons here are green, or for NFRD, all the people icons are green. I'm able to go ahead and, similar to what we do with the reporting period, is go ahead and update the status but using the house icon, I'm going to come in and edit our agency status and set that to complete. Let me see if I have, if I set my process up correctly, I'm able to go in to one of our areas here. Yeah, okay. So Department of Labor, okay, so I can see two green icons. So as my level one user, I can come into the house icon. Again, just like we did at the organization level, okay, the sub-agencies and bureau level, I'm going to come in and set this to complete. Again, if there is a case that for the entire agency for that reporting period, annually, particularly for PPRD, then we click no data or select no data to report. But you're then going to, if there are records that are submitted, you're going to get an error that there is data. You won't be allowed to set it that. If that's the case, we might need support's help to remove those records. But for today's purpose, I'm going to click complete so you can see then how the status of the Department of Labor will then change to green. Okay, and so then individuals like Gary who are looking at the system then like as an oversight user as I am, he can then see, okay, the Department of Labor, with all of the sub-levels are now considered complete for this fiscal year. And we want to make sure that this happens again prior to the deadline for each of the reporting periods, particularly for PPRT being December 30th. Right? In the case that we exceed that, again, we need the assistance of support. And in this case, then all records will be locked, so we can no longer input information or edit information on any of the records associated with that agency. All right, again, just remember that for eFAS, that last step is not a requirement, so this is just for PPRT, EST, and NFRD. All right. Any questions? Let me see. Getting some questions answered in the chat.
Yeah,
but if we need to
there's
review anything,
one question,
let me know for the
which
group.
is more of a business-related question.
Otherwise,
Mary Pat,
okay.
It says, are we to understand that scrap sent to a recycler needs to be reported? I'm just not sure how to answer that, so one of the app owners could take that one up.
That was a discussion that we had yesterday, and there is when you look down on the authorities of how property leaves the government, there is an entry for scrap. So if you're sending scrap out, we would like to get that data also. So if you know what you're sending, and if you're getting the report back from your scrap dealer, yes, report that to us also.
Is that going forward? I mean, is that as of yesterday?
No, it was always there. It was always there.
Yeah.
But we're just,
I just want to make sure.
We're just encouraging agencies to do it. Scrap has always been there as an authority of property leaving the government.
Right.
So we're just encouraging you to report it to us now.
Yeah, because we got accountable and non-accountable. So non-accountable or
scrap.
Yeah, scrap. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure because I'm getting rid of some scrap. So and but see that's the thing about I was saying about documentation. That's whether it's non-accountable, accountable, we should be accountable for whatever property. I mean, it's still a government issue, regardless of what it is. So. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, so again, thinking back to our process diagrams, we've completed all steps then. We've entered information, we've submitted it for approval, had it approved. Might need to go back and forth a time or two, but hopefully not get that approved. and then updated, lastly, our agency status for PPRT at level 1. All right, so any questions that you have not yet asked, please enter those and we'll get those addressed. But now I want to move on to then the reports area. So if we look at page 61 of our user guide, with the table of contents there again, it's going to show you how to locate the reports that have been put into the system, scanned reports, as I'll refer to them, that have been brought over from the previous system, and then describe the area a little bit, and then look and show you how to print or export and download a version of the report for offline viewing and printing. All right, we're going to again have subsequent sessions on reports, but just to get to the reporting area, as we saw earlier, I'm going to click the Reports tab. Just a quick lay of the land here. You have your navigation elements here on the left. These are in essence folders in which are holding different reports. At the moment, it's going to show you everything. We're on the All Folders item. If I go ahead and click perhaps the eFAS report folder, it's going to show you the eFAS report that's been brought into the system. If I have access and I'm working with PPRT data, then I have access to these reports. You can go ahead and ignore the first two, but the data set by agency, authority, and FSC are reports that are available for viewing. Again, just as a reminder, as we get more deeply into reporting with future sessions, as you create new reports or perhaps, save versions of what you see here and customize, that's when you can begin to use these folders to begin to store those reports. So I would just say for now, begin, to explore what's available, and in the case that you need something before we're able to provide training, there's definitely some information in the user guide on how to customize and create new, but you can also obtain the assistance of support in that capacity as well to help you create a report. And what you're doing is querying the information that you've put into the system and trying to get, a view of all information that is important to you. And just as a reminder, when we talked about hierarchy, agency hierarchy before, you're only going to be able to have access to data at your level and below. So if I'm a level 3 user, if I'm looking at this information, I'm really only going to be able to see my agency or sub-agency or bureau, and then, my level. As an oversight user, I have access to all of the information. All right, so just clicking on this by authority, for instance, as a report to run, it's going to go ahead, query the system, and pull back the information, again, from the filters and such that have been set up in this report. Okay, so you can just see the different types of fields, the reporting periods, the organization name, authority that's associated with that entry, and the acquisition cost. So just a brief report, and again, because I'm oversight, I have access to everything that's in our test system here. You'll have access to, again, what you, depending on your level. So just want to show you, again, how to then take this with you if you need to take it offline. Your printable view is going to be what is going to help you download a file as well as maintain kind of the integrity of the report that we see here in terms of formatting. So the export details is really just going to be a raw data dump of the data, whereas I'll show you the printable view. We'll go ahead and again in Chrome, it's going to download a report Excel file, which I'll open up for you. Okay. And you can see then it comes down pretty similar to what we saw in that screen. Okay, it's going to tell you what filters, again, the system had been applied, and bring it down in the column organization that we saw in the system. You can then work with Excel in your own capacity then to reformat or rearrange as you see fit from this format. Okay, so definitely take some time to explore, again, the reports based on what type of data you're looking for. We'll probably also begin to work with the application owners as you have questions and begin to work with and input information of what else might be useful and can be set up as a standard report for everybody to access.
I have a question. So when we submit this, are you guys are going to go in and look at from our agency, or it's up to us to submit the report? How is that going to work in terms of submitting this report as we go forward?
So, with the report, you're not really submitting anything, you're just kind of reviewing information that already exists in the system.
Yeah, right.
So it could be that you may be looking at previous fiscal years for some reason, or if you want to maybe pull a whole fiscal year. As I went through the approval process, for instance, as we get to that, if there is 1,000 records, it might be easier for me to create a report if it's not already set up in one of these standard reports. To take a look at the information, all in that table like I had done, just by the authority or by agency. So it's just you're querying information that already exists in the system. You're not really submitting anything in this process.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Because I'm saying, every year we have to submit to GSA, and I guess what I'm saying, when I say submit, I guess up to you. Are you guys able to, I guess, see it there?
Yeah.
As opposed to us submitting to you guys. I guess I probably didn't phrase the question.
That's okay. So the requirement for PPRT in particular is that, your indication to, let's say, Gary, for instance, that your whole agency is,
okay.
You've submitted the information, it's all been approved by all your approvers.
Gotcha.
Is that process I showed with the house icon?
Okay, right, okay.
Once that's all done, Gary can come in, he can take a look at the house icon, or, he again might be able to run a report for his own purposes to take a look.
Right. And if he had an issue, obviously, he would contact my agency and say, hey, look, what's up with it? Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So good differentiation. Reports are really just more reviewing information in the system.
Right.
Again, perhaps for review purposes or to take it offline in case we need a record for some reason.
Gotcha.
Okay. Question, when the system closes down, if there's incomplete reports, do we get messages, notices, how does that work for us? It's just closed and we default?
Yeah, so let me repeat the question, make sure, let's say, I'll come back to the data entry tab again. For ESD, the reporting period closed December 31st, and we still have some agencies in not completed status. Pranav, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the system will not send out automatic notifications. But if this is something in the case that before then, the application owners would most likely be, pinging the agency level 1 users like, hey, I see that, 3 out of the 10 are not necessarily complete. Can you please do that? And as I review Chatter too, you'll see that that's a tool that could potentially be used as well to kind of encourage folks to remain on task and timeline. Does that help answer your question? And is that correct, Pranav?
Does it still
Okay.
penalized, no penalty? We just
Yeah, from the penalty perspective, I don't know about that.
My ASM always get notified, so they are. Just got to get it done.
It would be considered in not compliance, I guess, but in terms of how that manifests,
it comes down to you. You get penalized.
Yeah.
GSA tells you.
We have a question.
Sure.
Because when it comes to my part,
Sure.
I need to know, besides, let's say we have the bureaus, you know how DOJ has them listed? We also have, let's say, A, Z, and Y, which are not the bureaus, but other offices that submit other components that submit entries. They don't have as much as these folks, but before, whatever they had, still I was able to upload it as bulk. Let's say they have 2-3 entries per each category. How do I upload that sheet instead of me sitting and entering every single one, basically? These are, let's say, they're different offices. They're different components besides these guys. Before, I was able to do that because under the DOJ, there was a button that allowed me to enter extra.
All right.
See my point?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Where is that button again? So I need to know where to.
Those agencies are not included
Correct.
under the headquarters?
No, they are just extra, subcomponents.
You might be talking about the office of the secretary?
Yeah, that's right. I just wanted to give example AC, whatever Z. Yeah, they're different
We
ones.
might have antitrust, which falls under us in general.
Or we have OJP. We have other offices.
You got plenty of stuff out underneath.
Correct.
But you would not look at them as a part of the overall DOJ.
That's how we put them, yes.
I mean, as
So
part
where
of
is the,
reporting,
yeah,
when they report,
correct.
you put them under DOJ headquarters instead
Correct.
of
Yes, there's a button before that. I used to do that. Where is that button now?
Oh, to add an agency?
So
So-
before I had it at the top,
Yeah.
not the bureau, not these other folks here,
Yeah.
which they have their receiver. I would go to where it says DOJ, and there would be those up on top.
Edit.
There would be
And
somewhere
the
that I
right
would
button.
edit.
Managed user,
That's the,
That right
managed
one.
user,
No, where is that other?
managed organization, like,
we
Man.
looked at the agency hierarchy and,
you know, other
and those
like
things that, I guess were not with the
There you go.
agency hierarchy like your sub-agencies, we didn't add.
So
Well, I
I
need
would
to
say,
know that because I get info every year.
I thought that would be overall justice. Do you need to be?
I
that
need an
finite?
extra, I need an
Do you
extra
need to be
button.
that finite in identifying that
No, no.
data? Well,
Can you add it though under the headquarters right there in the right?
right, so like, I guess the,
I need to put a button on top that I would add under, just for the DOJ, let's say was Office A, B, C, D, that has
it's like
little.
adding another
And then,
agency.
this is separate, which is
They were
fine,
like-
but I need to know
like-
where to start it for.
yeah, so well, I think that,
underneath the
Correct.
right, so the,
Button before, James, that I uploaded.
That right
I would say
button.
don't worry about that.
And again, if you had another setting.
It can be put,
Step right.
so this
Yeah.
level,
Correct, yes,
it can be reported against this
Oh, I have
to
to-
the reporting period,
that's where I do it?
and that's like we did with the bulk upload, you can put it as associated with that reporting period of the DOJ at the top level.
Oh, I got it, that's fine.
It'll be at the DOJ.
Just I will
top level.
associate, identify it with that one. I got it. Okay, that's fine. That's clear. I got it.
Good point, like in the case, again, we try to use what existed. Again, don't be mindful of this is all mainly test data, not necessarily representative of exactly what will appear in production. But in the case that you're looking through your hierarchy and there is something missing, submit a support case and they can most likely get it added. It'll go through an approval process with the application owners. But in your case, if it can be reported at that top level,
Fine, I'm
use,
going to use the ID.
Yeah,
That
use the
will
DOJ.
identify. That's fine.
and if it's NFRD, it's the people icon versus the $sign icon.
NFRD is the people, yeah, the SD is the other.
Mm, okay.
That's fine. But also, for my part that I have to do, okay, at the end, normally I go and I say complete. This is my part.
That's the house icon that we reviewed.
Uh-huh.
So, so let's say, using your justice, once, let's say, in your real hierarchy that
I
all,
finish everything basically.
including your level, you've gone through the data entry process,
Correct.
you've updated your organization status, to be complete, like we see the green here,
Mhm.
that all of these are green,
Correct.
then you can update your agency status to complete here, and that's going to let,
1 second.
like what we did earlier, your agency status to complete, using the house icon.
You have a, excuse me, you will have at least a two level. You're gonna have data entry.
Yeah, because before I can add date, update, delete, if there's something wrong before I was able to,
Yeah.
Fix it and then complete it.
Two levels, data entry and data approval. Can you go back to the agency, screen again?
You want the reporting period? You want ESD, NFRD, it doesn't matter?
You had DOJ, I had the drop down. So,
Oh, here.
yes. This is actual where we are right now?
uh-huh,
Well, again, this is not necessarily representative of
data,
the exact
sandbox.
structure you'll see in production.
but
So,
similar,
yeah,
very
there's,
similar.
yeah, there's some that have all, some that do not, but, if for some case in the, on October 2nd, when you get access to the system and you're looking at the hierarchy, if there's something, but
So
That's gonna be Monday.
Sub-agencies
Make it all make sense.
No, ATF, that's true, we don't see it. So please fix that for us.
Yeah, exactly.
And Pranav, you can, like,
It might be a little bit different for
stating
production.
this correctly, that this is not necessarily representative of what, in production.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Yarrow?
Yeah, we'll double check.
Yeah,
the
still a
ATF.
couple more questions.
I have a
Still a
friend that
couple
works
more
for them,
questions
too,
on
so-
the scraps and
time's sake, go ahead,
recycling. Question
Go ahead,
asked
Pranav.
is, would it be reported under non-federal recipient?
Okay.
The answer is yes. And then,
Yes, Gary answered yes.
Would it be reported under, it would be reported
And
under the
then
non-federal
the other question
recipient
around
report.
that, again from Mary Pat, was
That's
when
scrap.
you had answered the question initially,
Yeah.
I guess this is only for a certified recycler. Not sure what that means.
R2.
If you look at the authority, however you get rid of it, it's, you pull down the authority. There are many authorities under there. There are certified recyclers, there are other certified recyclers, there are non-certified recyclers. So you choose the one that best fits
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
the person
Hopefully,
or the
Mary, that
recipient
answered
that
your
you're giving the
question.
that receives the property.
Okay, as Gary was explaining, I also just opened up, Mary Pat asked for an example of an ESD report, so I just quickly opened that as well. So let me know if that helped. But same type of process in order to download using the printable view.
Okay.
So let me just review Chatter briefly, and then we'll go ahead and close out. Again, make sure you have that support information and review the resources that you have available to you. So again, Chatter is a collaboration tool. Again, within the platform, it's dedicated to this particular system, not open to the public, but only the users on the platform. It, again, works somewhat similar to Facebook. So just to review what we're seeing here, you typically, when you come to the Chatter tab, land on within the feed. So this is a navigational element and ways that you can filter. And a feed is basically a view of all of the posts that have been posted. And again, what I follow is typically if you're named or if you've posted, if you want to filter it down to just those that are particularly addressed to you, you can see that I'm the oversight user, so I've been named in this particular post. I can bookmark individual posts here coming to the right using the drop down, and if I do that, then I get those in my bookmarks area. And then I can also mute particular ones in case I don't want to follow or get notified of certain activity, okay? But just as again, I pointed out in different areas you saw the post, this functionality. So, you know, you can see a couple of examples here that we did during the training of the application owners. You know, they can actually post surveys or quick polls for everybody, particularly if we want to see, again, what type of further training we might want to take place. Or as we talked about earlier, you know, this could be something, see if Gary, yeah, so Gary's still in the system. I can let him know that I'm running late with my agency's submission. You know, I'll try to make the deadline. All right. And he's going to come back and say, so depending on the system settings, okay, typically with the use of Chatter, if I tag a particular individual, and my phone just buzzed, so I get an email. If I'm named in a post, but then the person I'm submitting to as well gets an email. All right, so that'll be something that you can alter. So as you continue or increase your use of Chatter and you don't want as much email notification, you can go ahead and change those settings, and I'll show you that shortly. But you can also share files. And again, pointing out then in the user guide, as we quickly review this information, I'm going a little faster than normal looking at the time, but on page 70 is where you can find some more information on Chatter. And when you upload files, you do have permissions to share those with particular individuals versus posting to all. So there's some permission items there. And then just as we, again, want to create a new poll, you can see that there's additional functionality on the type of links. But one thing you can see that, in our training we took a look at, there might be some interactions around reporting periods or the particular property data records. Again, you can see that we've had a conversation about this particular reporting period. Maybe there's questions like we have here in the training about what to do with particular type of property again, and if I use that, I can go to that particular reporting period, and you can see that the chatter feed appears within this reporting period page, for the Carlsbad field office. Okay, so it remains there for us as a record for those of us that have access to that reporting period. We want to be mindful of, we can't include a person in the conversation if they're not at this level, so just be mindful of that data access. But it's definitely a useful tool. We'll also, potentially, the application owners will take a look and see if groups might be something that could be useful to everybody, again, to converse about the business rules, the different types of changes that may be going on, or to remind people about the different deadlines occurring. So right now we see an example of the PPRT NFRD. There could perhaps be an ESD and an eFAS group that's created, and they can work with support. But if you think that there might be a subgroup or something that would be important for your area, definitely recommend that we can work with support to get that set up. What that does is just group information for those that are added to that group, and then again, we can either make it so that the group is able to be joined by individuals through a join process, or that it's closed and they need sort of approvals to get in, or they can be set up within the group by support. So different ways to be able to, again, organize the posts and the information that we're collaborating around. I want to make sure there's enough time to review, again, support information and some next steps. So let me return back to the presentation. Again, take a look at the user guide for some more information around chatter, particularly getting deeper into the types of items and also how to follow some users on the system. Perhaps we're working with individuals more closely. So let me go ahead and come back. What I want to make sure is that you do have, again, we saw this in a couple of different places. This will be the emails of the support group. It's separated by reporting type. It's a PPRT, whether you're working with ESRD or NFRD, and you're encountering, again, perhaps an issue or an error that you don't recognize in the system, just email support. Typically, they'll be able to get back with you within 24 hours. If you happen to email them on a Friday, they'll probably end up getting back to you late Friday, getting back to you on Monday. Other types of information that you would want to, again, use, if again, you want to create a new user, they would be, you would issue an email for them as well, or again, if you want to set up a chatter group. And in the case that you're not sure, and you're just kind of getting used to why we need to contact them, they'll help address system-related questions. If it happens to be like a business rule question, like Pranav was passing on to Gary, we might have to bring in Pat, Darlene, and Gary to, or Bob, as questions, and they'll get brought in, and we'll close tickets, but not have you be passed on to different people. But just submit questions to them as needed, and you'll get used to what kinds of information then moving forward they can address. But typically system-related information is what you can address with them. All right. And then again, we have the user guide. So hopefully Christine has been able to get those out to users. And again, we'll get those out to everyone as well before we launch, in case anybody's not able to attend this or the next training session. So just to hop down towards the bottom. In case you want another refresher, we'll be holding a second session on the 12th, also from 9 to 12 here in the GSA, or you can join online as a refresher. And again, subsequent, we'll look at see what other types of training might be needed based on the questions that are coming in to application owners and support. Okay? But otherwise, again, please feel free to use the help desk as your reference, and we will be publishing the recording of today's training session. Again, in about 2 weeks' time, once we go through the production process for 508 compliance.
Thank you. I want a question for you. In terms of finding out information, we have to log into this system to find out, for example, next training, obviously the chatter feed. So we wouldn't get on our regular email
If we don't have another training, you'll get it.
Okay.
That's for this one.
Okay, I get a regular email on my regular email as opposed to having to log into the system and find out information. Okay.
Yeah, so the question is, let me just ask those in the room too, underneath your packet we've provided evaluation, so if you could take some time to fill those out, would be great and helpful for me to see when we do run the next session if there's any improvements needed. But yeah, the question was about the next training, so I did mention that it's on the 12th. I don't believe a calendar item or an invite has been sent out yet, but that's something that will be forthcoming to your regular email addresses. It's not something that you would have to opt in for, but as you saw earlier, we could go ahead potentially post that into the system. I'll show you again on that Home tab, because you will be accessing the system hopefully, soon after October 2nd. Potentially upload that here in upcoming events or milestones, and then link the recording here in the training area. So I just want to stop there and thank everyone for their time. We'll definitely have a couple more minutes to address questions as we need in the room or online, but thanks so much for your time today. I hope that you found the training helpful. Best wishes with the system, and again, hopefully we will see you again at the next training, but if not, good luck and take care. Thank you. Those online on the phone will definitely hang out for a couple more minutes.
Cool.
In case you have any questions, then we'll look at the chat and Q&A to make sure we've addressed everything.
Yeah, he showed me the last page.
Yeah, so Michelle, just as a reminder, we reviewed earlier your question about the email coming out with the new login information. This is something that will occur most likely early Monday morning, very early Monday morning. All accounts will be set up and you'll receive an email and you will follow the link in that email to reset your password and then use that new username, which is your email and password to log in. So in case you joined late, the presentation that was sent has the new URL as well as the user guide.
I got a new one.
I want to get a new one too.
And then, told me it was ready, and I just
Here's your pen, young man. I have a pen fetish.
Oh, wow.
I better get it. It's a good right pen, so I better get that back to you. Because I add that to my collection.
Because mine's like,
So you got about a year left.
like, I can't level 2.
I ain't mad at you.
Running up out of here.
In a blink.
Ain't even blink. I'm be gone.
But before the blink.
Did you have to get this project? Karen, can you read the project? What system do we use?
You're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah. That's a wrap. It's a closed chapter.
You just finish it up, right?
Yeah, and 1 year.
Oh my goodness. So are you training somebody to come after you? How does that work?
If they don't get somebody in,
That's on you?
I've been told that. I told them,
They crazy. I would have somebody with you for a year. I'm serious.
I'm going to bring somebody in.
I can't believe it took this long. It's
I want to
obviously
bring somebody in.
like life-changing for me. My old computer is just like 6 minutes to log in.
Don't wait till,
Constantly getting up. It's actually like
They're going to wait.
better.
They're going to wait till next November.
Noticeably better.
I come in, you put it in and go get coffee, come back.
It'll be sure.
Yeah,
It'll be
totally.
sure.
It's like, then I
Are you
help them,
creating
like,
anything in terms of cheat sheets or any type
like
of,
late for work.
it's helpful because you got a lot of, somebody like you, Snow, I let you get out the door.
Yeah, this is like pretty much immediate.
I would have somebody right now for a whole year's salary.
I try to get them in.
You sure? They're crazy.
To fix up my car.
In April. I told them, I said,
You gotta take care of me.
Now, thanks for coming. No, y'all.
They're crazy.
We can do blankets.
Yeah, that's it.
Training while I'm training. That's where we can be there a little longer.
Been doing your retirement part?
I just put you another one.
I want adjustments.
Oh, yeah. You want to add it to the restaurant?
You got all your stuff?
You want to know what I'm saying for the, I love that. No, they have the at the grill. Yeah, that's just a say goodbye. Yeah, I don't know they're gonna have to do it. They could just be coming up with lunch.
I'm going to go say goodbye.
Yeah, I saw it this morning.